Hong Kong movie I Am the Black Dragon King Part 2. As one of the NI family's top 5 talking heads, Han Chen looks completely different outside than at home. Outside he is the cruel and loyal NI family dog, but at home he is his wife Mary's love dog. He and Mary could be considered childhood sweethearts. The two grew up in the same housing estate when they were young, and their relationship was extremely deep. Han Chen's ability to go from a short mule to where he is today is inseparable from Mary's advice and help. His feelings for Mary are reflected in all the details in life, such as going to KTV nightclubs and other places, where there is no one who is a short mule but not a lady. But at most he can just hug and deal with the situation, and he won't do anything more in depth. When I got home, I was busy and waited on Mary like a queen. "Wife, when the meal is ready, try the winter melon and pork ribs soup I stewed today. You have been a little angry recently, so this is the best thing to drink." Han Chen scooped up a bowl of soup for Mary with a diligent look on his face. "I've said before that there's no need to go to such trouble. It's not like we don't have servants at home. Just ask them to do whatever they want." "Why are you so busy?" Mary complained. "How can it be the same? I made it for my wife with my own hands to express my love." "Death!" Mary looked at Han Chen's playful smile and let out a squeak. While the two were having dinner, the doorbell rang suddenly. After the Filipino maid went to open the door, Han Chen, the leader, walked in quickly. "Hello, boss." "Hello, sister-in-law." Si Chang nodded in greeting. Mary, who was very discerning, knew that she had something to tell Han Chen when she saw Si Chang like that, so she stood up and said, "I'm full, you guys can talk slowly." Although she helped Han Chen make suggestions for many things, she paid special attention to protecting Han Chen's majesty in front of Han Chen's younger brother, and basically would not interfere with anything Han Chen did. "No, wife, you continue to eat, Achiang and I will go to the study to chat." After that, Han Chen took Sha Chang to the study room. "Tell me, what happened to you suddenly coming to my place now?" "Brother Shan was hacked," Silly Chang said. "He was hacked. How is he doing now? Do you know who did it?" Han Chen frowned and said, "He is now in the hospital. His life has been saved, but his injuries are serious. I will report to you as soon as I receive the news. It is not yet clear who did it." Hearing this, Han Chen narrowed his eyes and his mind raced rapidly. In fact, with his current status, Qin Shan was not qualified to be his business partner. But that guy also grew up in the same housing estate as him. Everyone has been with him before he became famous, and Qin Shan is a pretty good person, so he will play with him now. But although Qin Shan is also a gangster like him, he is not that sophisticated and has always been. He rarely offends anyone. After thinking about it, he really couldn't figure out who would kill Qin Shan. "You go get ready to get out of the car, I'll say hello to Mary, and then go to the hospital to ask him what's going on." "Okay, boss." After Han Chen came out of the study, he said to Mary, "Shan was chopped by someone. I have to go to the hospital to see him. I'll go with you." As Mary spoke, she was about to get up. "No, I don't know what's going on right now. Just wait at home and I'll call you if anything happens." Han Chen pressed Mary's shoulders and pushed her down. "Then be safe. Don't worry, I just go to the hospital to see a patient. Nothing will happen," Han Chen said with a smile. He drove to the hospital where Qin Shan was treated and went upstairs to find Qin Shan's ward. When he opened the door, he saw Qin Shan wrapped like rice dumplings. "No matter how you did it, it doesn't matter." A veteran like Han Chen can tell at a glance that Qin Shan's life is not in any danger, otherwise he would have been sent to the intensive care unit long ago. Where would he be able to visit him? "I barely managed to save my life, but the doctor said that if I were delayed for a while, I might die from excessive blood loss," Qin Shan replied. "He's so cruel. He doesn't want to scare you, or he wants to torture you. Do you know who did it?" "Yuanan gang." "Chun." Shan gritted his teeth and said, "Those bastards devoured our goods. I went to get them last night and had a fight with them. But those brothers are too strong, and none of the people I lead can do it better than them." Why didn't you tell me about such a big thing? Han Chen frowned and said. I don't have the nerve to say that you had advised me a long time ago, but I didn't listen. Now that something really happened, I don't have the nerve to go find you, Qin Shan said ashamedly. I originally thought that I would go to Sion, Bald and the others to talk about this matter in the next 2 days and ask them to come forward and help solve it. It turned out that those bastards were so cruel. Not only did they swallow my goods, they also wanted my life. The 4 eyes that Qin Shan is talking about are also from Yunnan, and they have relatively high prestige among the Yunnan people on Hong Kong Island. When the Yunnan people fled from Yunnan to Hong Kong Island one by one, these people did a lot of good things. Among them were the 3 Tony brothers who lived in the White Rock Boat People's Center. What he did was also a standard procedure for conflicts among Hong Kong communities. Everyone came out to hang out, and all they wanted was money. No one was willing to fight all day long. Beat him to death. If there is a problem, he will sit down and talk about it first. If he can't reach an agreement, he will be scared. If he can't be frightened, he will fight. If he doesn't accept the fight, he will kill him. As a result, he was still in the stage of preparing for talks, and the 3 Tony brothers jumped directly to the last link, made it clear that they were here to blackmail him from the beginning. So he didn't hide anything anymore, and told Han Chen everything that happened between him and the 3 Tony brothers. After hearing this, Han Chen's face was already livid. Putting aside the fact that he has a good relationship with Qin Shan, just because of his status, the Yunnan gang dared to do this gangster thing, but they didn't take him seriously. The Ni family didn't care about him behind his back. In any case, it is one of the best societies in Tsim Sui, and the Yutnam gang is just a small foreign gang located near Mong Kok. The strength of the two is not at the same level. The Yutnam gang is like breaking ground on Tai Sui's head. I don't know where those guys got so bold. When they come out to hang out, they mainly talk about brotherly loyalty and face. This time, the Yunnan gang killed his brother and swallowed his goods, so they took advantage of both. If he doesn't give those guys a hard time, how will he be able to fool around in the future? Ah Chang! Han Chen said sharply. Boss! Find someone to bring a message to those bastards from the Yunnan gang, asking them to spit out what they swallowed, and give another 10 million to Ashen for medical expenses. If you can't do that, just wait until I chop it into pieces and throw it into the sea to feed the fish. Han Chen was really angry this time. Even if the Yunnan gang honestly paid compensation, he had no intention of letting Tony and the others go. Mongkok. Azza and Tony were eating in a shop called Dalat Beef Hot Pot with a few boys. The name of this restaurant translates into Chinese as Dalat Beef Hot Pot. From the name, you can tell that this is a restaurant run by Yunnan people. Dalat is the place name of Yutnam, located in the south of Yutnam and the capital of Lam Dong province. Moon-style hot pot is a delicacy in Yunnan cuisine that goes against the normal characteristics of its climate. It gives people the feeling that it is a prosperous place and a barbaric place where it is difficult to live. Its taste is mainly sour and spicy, which is a bit similar to Siamese tom yum soup, but there are slight differences in details. The ingredients of Yunnan hot pot are mainly seafood and beef, supplemented by vegetables and rice noodles. The seafood is mostly shrimps and scallops, and the beef is very special. Instead of cutting it into slices with a knife, it uses high-quality beef tenderloin and Western-style steak. The axe smashed it into flakes. This kind of taste may not seem like much to people from Hong Kong, but for Tony and other Yunnan people, it is a hometown taste that is rare to taste outside. On weekdays, as long as there is nothing else to do, the brothers would always come here to have a toothpaste ceremony. While enjoying his meal, Tony, who was facing outside the store, saw Ahu running towards him in a hurry. Brother! Asia immediately raised his head when he heard the warning, and the younger brother who came with them also secretly put his hands on his waist. Until Ahu entered the door, Tony's eyes were fixed on the outside without any slack. Second brother, don't look anymore, no one is following me. Ahu picked up the tea on the table and took a sip. What are you doing here? There is no one at home. Who is my mother to watch? Tony snapped. Don't worry, it'll be okay. I've asked my boys to lock the door. You're not allowed to open the door until I go back. If you need anything, call me anytime. What is going on? You have to come and tell me in person. Asa frowned and said, Just now, Han Chen from the Ni family sent his chief, Shachiang, to deliver a message to us. He told us to spit out the food we swallowed, and then pay Qinshan 10 million in medical expenses, or else he would chop us into pieces and feed us. Fish! What a loud tone! Jia sneered and said, Does he really think he's sure to win over us? I want to see what he can do to me even if I don't vomit. Ahu, you call your brothers immediately. If they dare to come, let them come upright and go back sideways. Good. Not busy. Ahu was about to respond when Tony raised his hand and interrupted. Brother, don't be impulsive. Don't forget, this is not our family's business. Asa has a fiery personality. He just heard that Han Chen was going to get them, so he wanted to get them back. For a moment, he forgot that there was Chen Heilong. Yes. We paid 100 million. Didn't Qianlong say that if the Ni family came to come, he would help us fight? Asa looked at Tony and said, Please contact them quickly. Sure. Tony made a silence gesture to them, then took out his cell phone and called Jimmy Zai. Brother John Me, Han Chen sent his younger brother to find us today. Okay, he'll be there soon. Seeing Tony hang up the phone, Asa hurriedly asked, What should I say? Let me get through, Tony said. Brother, you and Ahu take your mother to a safe place first. Don't let anyone take the opportunity to sneak attack you. I'll go see the God of Wealth Dragon. Okay. After Tony left the hot pot restaurant, he arrived at the address given by Jimmy Zai in less than 20 minutes. Jimmy Zai took him to wait in the office for a while, and then saw Chen Heilong walking out of the lounge at the back. Through you can see Ken's figure going to the bathroom from the crack in the door of the lounge. Although Tony knew that Chen Heilong had been using Ken's little girl as a slave, he did not dare to take a second look for fear of causing Chen Heilong's misunderstanding. Brother Black Dragon. Tell me, what's going on? Chen Heilong asked. Han Chen asked his younger brother to come and give us a message, asking me to spit out the food I swallowed, and to compensate Qinshan for 10 million in medical expenses. If he dared not pay, he would chop the three of us brothers into pieces and feed them to the fish. Ha! Chen Heilong sneered and said, This little dwarf is not tall, but his tone is not small. Do you have his number? I'll give him a call. Tony naturally did this preparation work. Hearing this, he quickly called up Han Chen's number from his mobile phone. Chen Heilong followed the number given by Tony and called it with his own mobile phone. Hey, who is it? Han Chen's voice came from the other end of the phone. He Lianxing, Chen Heilong. Han Chen, who was having dinner with his wife, was obviously stunned when he heard the name. Their club had no business dealings with He Lianxing, and he personally had no personal relationship with Chen Heilong. He didn't understand why. Chen Heilong called him. Come. But this does not prevent him from greeting people with a smile. Brother Heilong, what's the matter? I am the one who protects the three Tony brothers from the Yuan gang, so give me some face and let this matter be settled like this. When Han Chen heard this, he almost laughed out of anger. What do you mean, forget it, they were the ones suffering from the beginning to the end. First, they were devoured goods worth 200 million, and then they almost hacked his brother to death. None of the three Tony brothers lost a hair. Where did it come from? God of Wealth Dragon, you take your face too seriously. Those three bastards swallowed up my goods and almost hacked my brother to death. I, Han Chen, don't want to lose face. You short winter melon, do you have any face? I'm not discussing this with you. I'm informing you that I've secured the fate of the people from the Yuan gang, so don't be shameless. Bullying these little brothers like me. When Han Chen heard this, he suddenly became angry. He has been ridiculed since he was a child because of his height. Now, except for Mary who can occasionally tease him like this, if anyone else dares to ridicule him like this, he will definitely take revenge and go back. Even if you are your best friend since childhood, you will not give him face. I will definitely not let the three Tony brothers go. Since you want to protect them, then break up. Han Chen put down these words and hung up the phone. Chen Heilung put down the phone and sneered. If you dare to break up with me, then I will use you to establish your power. After that, he looked at Tony and said, Now that Han Chen and your Liang Zi have been taken over by me, you three brothers had better find a place to hide in the past 2 days, lest the city gate catches fire and affects you. Clear. Tony also didn't expect that Chen Heilung would actually use this method to support them, and he had a new understanding of Chen Heilung's strength. On the other side, Han Chen hung up the phone angrily, and directly called his boss Shaxiang. Does Lianxing's fortune dragon have a warehouse in Simsha Sui? Yes. Shaxiang replied. There is a warehouse for Caishenlong over there at the dock. You go gather your brothers and burn down his warehouse for me, Han Chen said with a fierce expression. Tear yourself up with me, and I will let you know how powerful I am. Yes, boss. That night, Shaxiang took about 100 of his boys and drove 7 or 8 minibuses to Chen Heilung's warehouse in Simsha Sui. Although this warehouse was located at the Simsha Sui pier, it was not a Lianxing site. Chen Heilung only set up a small warehouse here, and there were only about 20 boys to guard the warehouse. With more than 20 people facing 100 people, they would be defeated without any suspense. Silly Chang took the lead and rushed in. Unexpectedly, the battle was over in 5 minutes. After cutting down all the boys who were guarding the warehouse, he immediately called on his people to pour gasoline on the cargo hold. Then, the cargo hold was burned to the ground with a fire. Early the next morning, Chen Heilung took Ken to have breakfast in a tea restaurant in the New Territories. The tea restaurants on Hong Kong Island are famous for their poor service attitude, and their main goal is to treat everyone equally. Regardless of whether they are tourists from out of town or local Hong Kong Islanders, even the surrounding neighbors are treated with a stern look, as if someone owes them millions. But there is only one kind of person they dare not show mercy to, and that is the members of the club. Chen Heilung often visits this store. From the boss to the waiters, everyone knows that he is the leader of Lianxing, and they don't dare to neglect him at all. Especially since he was accompanied by a group of tall and strong men, it even had the effect of cleaning the streets. Brother Heilung, what would you like to eat today? A cage of barbecued pork, a steamed dumpling, 2 bowls of wonton noodles, and 2 cups of frozen lemon tea. After saying that, Chen Heilung rushed to the black tiger servant who came with him. Order what you want to eat. Yes, boss. The main thing in the tea restaurant is quick ordering. After everyone ordered, all the meals were served within 5 minutes. During the meal, Zhang Mitzi arrived with a livid face. Boss. Have you eaten yet? If not, let's eat some together. We'll talk about it after we finish eating. Chen Heilung raised his eyelids and said, Yes. Although Zhang Mitzi had a lot to say, when he heard what Chen Heilung said, he had no choice but to sit down and deal with it casually. Chen Heilung chewed his breakfast carefully, took the tissue handed over by Karen, and wiped his mouth. Then he said to Zhang Mitzi, What's the matter, tell me. Our warehouse in Simsha Sui was burned down, and it was Han Chen's boss, Silly Chang, who led the people to do it. The moment he saw Zhang Mitzi arrive, Chen Heilung expected that what he was about to say must be related to Han Chen. After all, Han Chen was a big boss, and it was impossible for him to suffer such a big loss and not react at all. That's why he didn't rush to let Jimmy talk. Anyway, things had already happened. It was better to wait until after breakfast to avoid getting into a bad mood. How much was lost? Chen Heilung asked calmly. Not much. The total loss was only about 30 million. Simsha Sui is not our and Lianxing's territory, and the ones set up in those places are small warehouses. When Chen Heilung was about to speak, a system prompt suddenly came to his mind. System mission released. Get back the losses from Han Chen and let everyone know your evil name. Mission completion reward, an opportunity to cooperate with department store King Xiao Jingben. Seeing that there was such a good thing, Chen Heilung immediately changed his mind. He originally wanted to show some courtesy to Han Chen, but since he burned down his warehouse, he asked people to burn down all Han Chen's warehouses. But now that we have a mission, we can no longer do this. You call the Black Tiger King and inform him to pick up the guy from Cargo Bay 0. Warehouse number 0 is Chen Heilung's most important warehouse, and it is also the most secret warehouse. Except for his direct descendants, no one else knows where the warehouse is. Except for Chen Heilung's looted warehouse, in addition to all kinds of valuable toys, they are the purchased arms and ammunition. Since you are going to attack Han Chin, you must have all the equipment ready to ensure that you can hit it with one strike. Yes, boss. John Nazai nodded. The Black Tiger King and the Black Wolf King have been responsible for the smuggling matters in their halls during this period. Chen Heilung was originally mainly engaged in the mainland smuggling business. The mainland is very close to Hong Kong Island. Since Yuan If Lang takes the water route to Pengcheng Bay, the closest distance is less than 10 kilometers. This kind of place where you can see the opposite side at a glance is naturally unlikely to breed pirates. But since Chen Heilung obtained the 3 freighters, he opened smuggling through other channels. The sea is never a peaceful place, especially this kind of smuggling ship, which is the fat sheep that pirates like to plunder most. Many sea smuggling owners earn at least 3 to a quarter of the money throughout the year. It is prepared for pirates. And those guys also know that wool cannot be put on just one person. If some smuggling ships are robbed too many times in a short period of time, they will occasionally let one of them go out of kindness. But in the case of Chen Heilung, naturally, he did not intend to pay a penny. Therefore, he sent the Black Wolf King and the Black Tiger King to escort the ship. These two have gained their notoriety in a short period of time, and from time to time there will be a stir during the escort process. It's bloody. Now in the southeastern waters, as long as these 2 names are mentioned, all pirates will shy away. After all, pirates also want to make money. There are so many ships coming and going anyway, so there is no need to fight with such ruthless people. When the Black Tiger King received the call, he was preparing to arrange for the freighter to go to sea, but after receiving the notice, he immediately suspended the freighter. Then he took his 20 or so boys to the 0 warehouse. After waiting outside the gate for about 10 or 20 minutes, I saw Jean Mitzi driving there with Chen Heilung in his car. Boss. When the Black Tiger King saw Chen Heilung coming out of the car, he immediately knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, "Get up, how many times have I told you not to do this nonsense?" "Yes, boss." The Black Tiger King stood up and stepped aside. Chen Heilung came to the gate, first put his palm on a blank space, and then saw an electronic password lock popping up on the door frame. After entering the password, he checked it one after another. Pupils, voice lines, etc. This is when the warehouse door is completely opened. Warehouse 0 looks very ordinary from the outside, even smaller than the convenience store next to it. But after entering, you will know that what you see outside is nothing more than the convenience store next to it. It's just an illusion. The real area of the warehouse is much larger than what you see from the outside. Black Tiger King, lift this steel plate. Chen Heilung pointed to a steel plate on the ground in the corner of the warehouse. Upon hearing this, the Black Tiger King immediately stepped forward and lifted the steel plate. After the steel plate was lifted, there was something wrong with the ground below. In other parts of the warehouse, the ground has been after hardening. It is impossible to have such a clay-like ground. But neither the Black Tiger King nor Jean Mitzi had any change on their faces, as if what they saw was an insignificant thing and they were no longer surprised. "Dig down here." Chen Heilung continued to direct. The Black Tiger King took a shovel and started his digging career without saying a word. After a while, several tightly wrapped wooden boxes were carried up. Open the wooden boxes on the top cover, they suddenly discovered that what was inside was the same batch of firearms they bought from Johnny Wang. "You take that." Chen Heilung pointed at the PKM in the weapon box. "This gun is the most powerful among the weapons." When he first got it, the Black Tiger King had operated it. He held such a big gun like a child. It's like a toy. And except for him who can use the gun like an arm, others can't handle it at all. Or to be more precise, it's too big and too sinking to operate. Black Tiger King, tonight you take your men to Han Chen's lair in Sim Sha Sui and kidnap that guy to see me. Chen Hailung said with a cold tone. Yes, boss. The Black Tiger King nodded. In the Ni family mansion, Han Qin is having dinner with Ni Kun. Although Ni Kun is the helmsman of the Ni family, his life is not very extravagant. His dinner is also very simple porridge and side dishes, so ordinary that it is not much different from ordinary people's homes. Aiken, I heard that you sent someone to burn down the warehouse of Heliansheng Keishenlong last night? Ni Kun said aloud. Yes. Han Qin nodded. There was no need for him to hide this kind of thing from his elder brother. Why? Qin Shan and I had a batch of goods to be shipped to Yuan some time ago. Han Qin told the specific story. That guy Chen Hailung wanted me to stop when he came up. Do you really think that they and Lianxing are the best in Hong Kong Island? Naturally, I have to show him some color. After listening to this, Ni Kun pondered for a long time and said, Although what you did is not wrong, the time you chose is not very right. And in the final analysis, that is also a matter between you and the Yuan gang. You can ignore Keishenlong when he comes forward, but in the end, you attack him first, and you won't be justified in talking about it afterwards. In addition, it is now the general election period with Lianxing. This time they have 3 regional speakers participating in the election. Each of them is not a simple role. Today's Heliansheng is like a dynamite barrel, it will explode at the slightest moment. You try not to flirt with Heliansheng recently, and wait until the dust settles on their general election before talking about anything else. Han Qin felt a little ashamed after what he said. In fact, Mary also persuaded him with the same words last night. Chen Hailung had a bad tone and a bad attitude, but he didn't do anything. It was just that he was so angry at that time that he didn't care at all. More. Now that I think about it, it was a bit reckless. Got it, brother? Ni Kun nodded. Since the Yuan gang is making a living on Hong Kong Island, there are many ways to deal with them. There is no need to create a strong enemy for yourself. Yes. After the two of them chatted for a while, Han Qin stood up and said goodbye. Han Qin has made a lot of money in recent years because of his Ni family No. 4 business. But the business he does will inevitably offend many colleagues. Those guys are not good men and women. So when he goes out, he not only brings a large number of young men to protect his safety, but also hires several gunmen with legal licenses to protect himself. Although guns are banned in Hong Kong Island, you only need to apply to the police. Legally held. Of course, it is impossible for members of a society to be approved for holding a gun license. The security guards Han Qin hired were all regular security guards and had nothing to do with the society. Therefore, when he traveled, in addition to the car in front of him, there were also other people behind him. We followed 2 business cars, one with the younger brother on top, and the other with the gunman on top. The Ni family's mansion is in Victoria Peak. From here to return to Tsim Sha Tsui, we have to go down the mountain and then cross the sea. When the convoy was driving on the mountain road, we suddenly didn't know where we were coming from. For large vans appeared, blocking the convoy's road. Han Chen's younger brother and the gunman reacted quickly. The car in front accelerated directly towards the van blocking the road, trying to open a gap. The commercial vehicle behind the gunman directly took out his firearm and turned on the safety, ready to fight at any time. I have to say that Han Chen's response method was very correct. In this situation, choosing a direction to break through is the best solution, rather than sticking to it and waiting for help. Since people dare to block you, no matter what, whether you can win or not depends on you, and you can't follow the opponent's rhythm. But unfortunately, they met the Black Tiger King. The boy in the car at the head of Han Chen's motorcade watched helplessly as the side door of the van opened, revealing a fierce look. He looks like a giant, and that giant also holds a heavy machine gun in his hand. Da-da-da-da-da. The boy in the first car was beaten up by the man in the car before he even had time to think of panic. This incident frightened all the cars behind them. They didn't expect that the other side's firepower would be so fierce, destroying all the cars. The road ahead was blocked by heavy machine guns and burning car wrecks, and they could only find a way to break out backwards. Faced with this life-and-death crisis, The gunmen hired by Han Chen opened their car windows and rushed towards the two vans blocking the road behind them. Although there was no Black Tiger King on the other side, there were quite a few Black Tiger servants, and they also placed some things behind the two vans. When the commercial vehicle behind Han Chen's motorcade reversed and rammed into it, the van deliberately exposed a gap. Bang! Boom! The commercial vehicle carrying the gunman just passed through the van blockade and ran over the tire puncture device placed behind it. The Black Tiger servant didn't even move a hand, and just watched the commercial vehicle roll down the cliff. It exploded into a ball of sparks. Half of the four-car convoy was eliminated in less than a minute. At this time, the Black Tiger King and his servants really started killing. Although Han Chen's men also had guns, the Black Stars, who could be the semi-automatic opponents on the opposite side, were all killed by the Black Tiger King in less than 2 minutes. In the fleet of 20 or 30 people, only Han Chen and Sha Chong were left. Han Chen was able to survive because Chen Black Dragon specifically confessed that when the Black Tiger King and the others fired, they would avoid Han Chen. As for Silly Chang, it is pure fools who are blessed. As soon as the gun rang, he jumped from the co-pilot to the back seat. Han Chen wanted to use his body to block the bullet for the boss. Unexpectedly, everyone else died, and he who wanted to block the bullet for the boss had no luck. Han Chen, my boss wants to see you, come with me. Although Han Chen doesn't know the Black Tiger King, he also knows that he doesn't have the right to refuse at all. Can I ask, who is your boss? You'll find out when you go. After saying that, the Black Tiger King took Han Chen out without giving him any chance to talk nonsense. Brother Tiger, what should I do with this guy? The Black Tiger servant pointed his gun at the trembling Shaoqiang in the carriage. That guy is of no use, just kill him. Etc. Han Chen quickly stopped him and said, I think you didn't kill me directly. You must have some request. If you keep him here, it will be convenient to help you with the message, right? When the Black Tiger King heard this, he stepped forward and held it up with one hand. Boom! The bullet fired by the Black Tiger servant almost flew past Shaoqiang's hair, which made Shaoqiang's crotch wet a lot. Take this guy back with you. The Black Tiger King pointed at the frightened Shaoqiang and said to the Black Tiger servant. Yes. The Black Tiger King took Han Chen into the car. He neither cuffed him to restrict his freedom nor blindfolded him. He just let him see where he was going. This style of behavior made Han Chen, a seasoned person, immediately sunk to the bottom. I'm not afraid of you seeing it. There are only two explanations. One is that I am powerful and I am not afraid of you daring to retaliate at all. The other is that you can't leave alive, so even if you see it, you can't do anything. These two, no matter either way, is not a good thing for Han Chen. As the vehicle moved forward, he soon knew who was the culprit who kidnapped him. He had just burned down a warehouse with the same logo last night. It was Hack Tiger King got out of the car and saw Chen Hailung sitting on the sofa in the middle of the warehouse, smoking a cigar. Brother Hailung, if you want to find me, just make a phone call. Why bother with such a big fight? Han Chen, who was laughing and talking, looked as if the killing of a large number of his men had never happened. But Chen Hailung didn't answer his words at all, and just glanced at the Black Tiger King. Snapped! As the Black Tiger King casually hit him with a baseball bat, Han Chen was immediately beaten to his knees and let out a miserable cry. Just beat him casually and teach him how to talk to me. Don't kill him. With Chen Hailung's words, the Black Tiger King did not take action again. With his strength, he could kill Han Chen with just one slap. Apart from him, the Black Tiger servants did not take action either. It was Chen Hailung who took action. An ordinary dwarf mule under his command. Han Chen's reaction was also quite tough. Except for the scream that he was caught off guard at the beginning, he remained silent no matter how he was beaten until he fainted from the beating. Boss, this guy was knocked unconscious, the younger brother reported. Put it up and splash cold water on it to wake it up. Puff! A scoop of cold water mixed with ice cubes made Han Chen wake up with a violent cough. His eyes focused for a while before he remembered what happened. Chen Heilung, it was my fault for burning your warehouse, I admit it, but you killed so many of my men today, so this matter can be considered even. Even? Chen Heilung sneered and said, Get it clear, if you don't burn my warehouse, they won't die because of you. This is not how the account is calculated. So what do you want? I am not a weak person. If you dare to do anything to me, my boss and I-kun will not let you go, Han Chen said with a sharp expression. Don't worry, I'm not an unreasonable person. If you burn down my warehouse, all you need to do is pay me the money, not much, just 200 million. Chen Heilung raised 2 fingers and said, Why don't you grab it? Your warehouse is only worth 20 to 30 million at most. Am I not robbing now? Chen Heilung smiled and said, Don't worry, I haven't finished talking yet. The 200 million is the compensation you gave me. In addition, the matter between you and the 3 Tony brothers ends here. If I know that you are going to trouble them, all of you will die today. My subordinates are an example. These words made Han Chen so angry that his face turned red and the veins on his forehead popped out. But in front of Chen Heilung, he did not dare to say anything. What he said just now made him see that Chen Heilung is the lawless lord. If he dares to say harsh words to this guy, then he will be killed. So no matter how unwilling he is, the most he can do is grit his teeth and express resistance without saying a word. But Chen Heilung didn't care about him at all. What's the reaction? Raise your hand to call Xiaqiang over. Your name is Xiaqiang, right? Si Chang nodded with fear in his eyes. You must have heard what I just said. Now I will give you something, son. Go back and tell Han Chen's family that they are ready to redeem him with 200 million yuan. Do you understand? Ming, understand. When Xiaqiang left the warehouse, it was already dark. Although this guy is called Silly Chang, he is actually not stupid at all. When he was captured before, although he was not blindfolded, he kept his head lowered and did not look around randomly. Now he asked to put on a blindfold when he left, for fear of causing misunderstanding on Chen Heilung's side. This is also the way for a small person like him to survive. His boss Han Chen is also the leader of the club anyway, so Chen Heilung will be a little scrupulous no matter what he wants. But he was different. A small character like him was best suited to scare the monkeys, so he had to be more cautious. The news that Han Chen had been kidnapped spread throughout the world not long after the incident happened. The 3 Tony brothers, who had been paying attention to Han Chen's movements, received the news immediately. When they got the news, they were hiding in a small bar in the countryside of Saigon. Brother Heilung is too arrogant. He is the head of the Ni family, and he actually tied her up at the request of him. Asa exclaimed. Shoo! Tony raised his finger and made a gesture to his lips. Keep your voice down. It's not yet certain what Brother Heilung is going to do. Don't cause unnecessary trouble because of us talking nonsense. Yes, I am talking too much. They knew that Han Chen was kidnapped by Chen Heilung because they had been paying attention to this matter, and they also knew that Chen Heilung was preparing to take action. But others did not know the twists and turns, and the Black Tiger King was extremely ruthless. Damn, no one was left alive at the scene. Moreover, they acted extremely quickly. From blocking the road and killing everyone to taking Han Chen away, the total time taken was less than 5 minutes. In addition to the incident, the road section was remote, and there was no witness to witness this process. Therefore, Tony was worried that Aja's talkativeness would disrupt Chen Heilung's arrangements. Remember, we don't know anything about this matter, so just feel free to continue hiding. Tony glanced at Aja and Ahu. During this period of time, restrain the people below from wandering around casually, and wait until Brother Heilung settles the matter. Clear? Don't worry, whoever dares to harm Brother Heilung, Ahu, will be the first to get around it. None of the 3 of them noticed that when they were talking, they had unknowingly changed the name of Chen Heilung from the God of Wealth Dragon to Brother Heilung, and there was nothing unnatural about it. On the other side, they stumbled to the Ni family to report the news. Silly and strong, he said anxiously as soon as he saw Mary. Sister-in-law, something happened to Brother Chen. What happened? Although Han Chen didn't come home all night last night, Mary didn't worry too much. She knew that her man was a bad guy. Whether it was business or socializing, it was at night. It was normal to stay up all night, so she didn't think much about it. But she was full of it. When Shachiang with a frightened face appeared in front of her, she knew something was wrong. Brother Chen was kidnapped by Lianqing's Kai Shenlong, and now he wants a ransom of 200 million before he is released. When she heard this, Mary almost couldn't stand still. She could take out the 200 million, but the problem was that she was worried that even if she took out the money, the God of Wealth dragon would not let Han Chen go, and even the lion would open his mouth. Possibility. As her mind raced, she quickly thought of countermeasures. Silly Chang, go wash your face first while I change my clothes. Take me to Ni's house. I want to see Uncle Kun. Yes, sister-in-law. When he arrived at the Ni family mansion, Ni Kun was having breakfast. When he saw Mary coming, there was a trace of curiosity on his face. Why are you here? Isn't Han Chen with you? Brother Kun, Aiken was kidnapped. That's why I came to you. Oh. Ni Kun stood up in surprise and said, Let's go to the study and talk. When Mary heard this, a trace of hesitation flashed in her eyes, but this hesitation was soon replaced by determination. The two entered the study and talked for a long time before coming out. When they came out, Shachiang noticed that Ni Kun looked a little tired. Mary's eye circles were a little red, her walking posture was a little staggering, and she felt a little too sad. Shachiang hurriedly stepped forward to help. Sister-in-law, are you okay? Don't worry. Ni Kun raised his hand and said, She was worried about Aiken. She cried a little hard just now. Just let her sit on the sofa and rest for a while. I didn't quite understand what Mary told me just now. Please tell me what happened again. What exactly happened? Yes, Mr. Ni. Achiang said respectfully. After we left your place last night, we were ambushed by Kai Shenlong's men as soon as we came down the mountain. Everyone was killed. Even my life was escaped under the protection of the boss. Later, we were taken to Kai Shenlong's warehouse. Kai Shenlong said that Brother Chen had burned down his warehouse and would have to pay 200 million to compensate for the loss, and he could no longer pursue the Yuan gang. Snort. Ni Kun snorted coldly, with an expression that was both angry and helpless. Originally, Han Chen was responsible for this matter at the beginning. After all, his goods were hacked and his brother was hacked. It is reasonable to settle the score with the other party. But the God of Wealth long intervened and diverted Han Chen's target. It's okay to shift the target. The only bad thing is that Han Chen burned down someone else's warehouse. The rules of the world don't do things like this, especially when facing a group that is stronger than himself, let alone Kai Shenlong still plays the role of a middleman lobbyist here. Although this lobbyist is very strong and has a bad attitude, this is not the reason for you to burn down other people's warehouses first. No matter how hard you fight among Hong Kong Island societies, there are very few people who blindly abandon the real owner and work as a middleman. Therefore, it is reasonable for people to kidnap Han Chen. Even if they go to the Jianghu comrades, there will definitely be more people supporting Kai Shenlong, leaving him with nothing to say. To excuse Han Chen. Originally he wanted to get angry, but seeing Mary's red eyes, he could only suppress his anger temporarily. Okay, I know this, go back. Brother Kun, Mary said anxiously. Don't worry, Aiken is my little brother. I won't just sit idly by and ignore his affairs. Ni Kun comforted him. Just go back and wait for the news. I'll contact Uncle Deng from Lianqing and ask him to help mediate the situation. After hearing this, Mary and Shachiang felt a little more at ease. Although Ni Kun and Uncle Deng were not in the same club, they were considered people of the same era, and they had some friendship with each other. And Uncle Deng was in a relationship with even those who are not with Lianqing know the prestige of Lianqing very well. If Ni Kun can persuade Deng Bo, then Han Chen's matter will be saved. Thank you, Brother Kun. Let's take our leave now. Mary knew that the boss was calling and it was not convenient for them to be around, so she got up and left with Shachiang. And I Kun nodded, looked into Mary's eyes and said, "Go back and wait with peace of mind. If there is any news, I will call you to inform you." "Good." Mary nodded slightly, turned and left. After watching Mary and the two drive away, I Kun returned to the landline and dialed Uncle Deng. "Hey, who is it?" Dummer, who was about to go out for a walk with his dog, picked up the phone and asked. "Uncle Deng, it's me, I Kun. Why did you remember to call me today? What happened?" "It's a little trivial," I Kun said. "My subordinate Han Chun had some misunderstanding with you and Lianqing's Caishenlong, so he sent his subordinate to burn down his warehouse. This happened the night before yesterday. I also knew about it yesterday. I called Han Chun over that night and scolded him severely, and asked him to go to Caishenlong the next day to apologize and compensate for the loss. But who would have thought that as soon as Han Chun left my place, he would be kidnapped by the Caishenlong men, and now he is asking Han Chen's family for 200 million compensation. So, I'd like to ask you to come forward and help make peace. Deng Budwa is a thief." After hearing these words, he has already put the matter back to the basics. Chen Hailing is obviously responsible for this matter, otherwise why would I Kun come to ask him to mediate? But even so, he still has to give I Kun face. After all, in the world of politics, you give me face and I will give you face. In addition, he knows that Chen Hailung has a lot of warehouses, and they are no longer on his own territory. These small warehouses are impossible to be worth 200 million. To ask for that much is just to kill Han Chun with a lion's open mouth. Deng Boi said in an old-fashioned way. "Don't worry, with our friendship, now that you have found me, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. I will contact Aaron later to meet and chat. You wait for my news." "Okay, excuse me, Dumbledore." "Dummer!" Chen Hailung said hello after receiving the call. "Aaron, do you have time now? Come to my tea house. I have something to talk to you about." "Okay." Chen Hailung glanced at the clock on the wall and said, "I'll be there in 10 minutes. The location where he is now is less than 1 kilometer away from Deng Bo's tea house, and it only takes 5 or 6 minutes to walk." After hanging up the phone, he asked the Black Tiger King to take Xiao Di with him to Deng Bo's house. When he arrived at Deng Bo's house finally, only the Black Tiger King among the younger brothers followed him upstairs, while the others were waiting on guard downstairs. When he went upstairs and opened the box door, he saw the old god Deng Bo lying on the couch on the ground, with a pot of tea and an incense burner next to him. The green smoke coming out of it also smells very good. "Uncle Deng, you are so elegant! Haha, when you are older, you are no better than young people like you. Even if you want to play some things, you are unable to do so, so you can only do things that cultivate your sentiments. Haha, Uncle Deng, you are joking. You have a strong body. You are stronger than many young people." After the two of them joked and exchanged a few words, Deng Bo got to the point. "Just now I Kun, the leader of the Ni family, called and chatted for a while. I have already heard about you and Han Chin. I called you here today because I want to be a peacemaker and make the big things between you become trivial. And now is the time when our association is changing. You should not make too many enemies outside, as this will not be good for you. When we, the uncles, vote, we must also consider whether the elected person will bring turmoil to the community." After hearing what Uncle Deng said, Chen Hailung smiled. "Uncle Deng, it stands to reason that you have already spoken, so I have to give you this face. But Han Chin came and burned my warehouse, so we can't settle the matter like this. As you said, I am also one of the candidates. If someone rides on your head and shits on you without any reaction, do you think your uncles will choose such a person to sit in the office?" This rhetorical question made Uncle Deng say no. The club chooses a boss. Of course, he doesn't like someone who stirs up trouble everywhere, but he is even less likely to like the kind of person who does nothing but act like a coward. The short mule comes out to fool around, just to avoid being bullied. If you become the eldest brother, I'm afraid that the younger brother below will have to run away in a few days. So what are you going to do, kill Han Chen? If you really kill that guy, there will be no room for change between you and the Ni family. Dummer looked at him and said, "No, Han Chen is the master of the Ni family after all, and I'm just looking for money. He burned down my warehouse and I asked him to compensate me 200 million, which is very reasonable." 200 million is a bit too much. Uncle Deng shook his head and said, "No one is a fool. Everyone can estimate the value of your warehouse. The lion's mouth will only make everyone unable to step down. In this way, I will make the decision and let Han Chen compensate you 80 million. What do you think?" The full value of the warehouse is only about 30 million, and the net profit of 80 million is 50 million. In terms of cost effectiveness, it must be a good deal. But Uncle Deng's strong intervention made Chen Hailung a little unhappy. But now the wings are not strong enough yet, and he will not refute anything. He also needs a step to get off. "Now that you have spoken, Uncle Deng, let's do what you want." "Good." Uncle Deng nodded with satisfaction, then picked up the landline and told Ni Kun the result of the negotiation. Ni Kun naturally knew that it was absolutely impossible not to pay for it. After all, you burned down someone else's warehouse. Money or not is a trivial matter. But the face is huge. Not paying or paying less is a matter of losing face, so he estimated early in the morning that he would have to pay about 70 to 80 million. After determining the amount of compensation, Ni Kun called Mary later. When she received the call, Mary was facing a table full of dinner. She had no appetite at all and could not eat anything. Ring, ring, ring. When the phone rang, Mary quickly picked it up. "Hello? Come to my house now. I have reached an agreement with Uncle Deng. We will discuss the details in person." Ni Kun's voice came from the other end of the phone. After hanging up the phone, within 20 minutes, Mary arrived at the Ni family mansion, and with her came Han Chen's leader, Ma Shaqiang. "You stay guard in the living room. When Mary and I are talking about things in the study, no one is allowed to come close and eavesdrop. Do you hear me?" Ni Kun said to Shaqiang. "Understand, Mr. Ni. I promise to keep an eye on you and not let anyone get close." This time the two of them went in longer than in the morning. Silly Chang could even faintly hear Mary's sobbing. When the two appeared again, Mary not only had red eye circles, but her hair was also a bit messy. "Sister-in-law, are you okay?" "It's okay." Mary waved her hand. "If you can't come up with the 80 million, I'll give it to you." Ni Kun interjected. "What 80 million? Si Chan looked confused. "I have reached an agreement with Uncle Deng. After all, I can burn Kaishenlong's warehouse, and the compensation will definitely be adequate, but it doesn't need to be as much as 200 million, just 80 million. Ni Kun explained. 8. Thanks. Silly Chang originally wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Mary. "I can still make up 80 million. "Well, that's fine. If it's not enough, feel free to tell me. If you have enough, send the money over as soon as possible to avoid other troubles in Yichang Meng Duo." When leaving the Ni family mansion, Shaqiang looked through the rearview mirror and saw Ni Kun standing on the porch watching them leave. He couldn't help but sigh and said, "Mr. Ni really values Brother Chin." "Shut up!" Mary suddenly scolded. Although Shaqiang didn't know why Mary was angry, he didn't dare to ask any more questions and drove the car without saying a word. After leaving Tapingshan, Shaqiang carefully looked at Mary in the rearview mirror. "Sister-in-law, where are we going now?" "Call." Mary took a long breath and said, "Go to the squatters." Squatters on Hong Kong Island refer to temporary residences built on illegal land. The buildings are usually quite simple, mostly made of iron sheets and wooden boards, so they are also commonly known as iron sheets. House, wooden house. This kind of houses were built by refugees who fled to Hong Kong Island at that time, and then gathered into villages. The housing estate where she and Han Chen grew up was next to a squatter area, and that was the place she was talking about. After Han Chen became successful, he bought a small area in the squatter area and stored some belongings. The reason why I chose to store things in this kind of place is because this place is a mixed bag, and many people don't even have ID cards. If something happens, this place is easy to hide their identities. However, Because this place was her and Han Chen's safe house, no one would know about it easily, so Shaqiang only asked Shaqiang to send her to the intersection. As she walked to the safe house alone, she looked around and circled several times to make sure no one was following her before arriving at the door of the safe house. Although the safe house set up by Han Chen is not very impressive on the outside, once you get deeper into it, you will find that this house is not simple at all. Not only is the angle and position excellent, there are 6 or 7 passages in front, back, left, and right, but you can also observe the conditions of each passage, and there is even more than one tunnel. It can be said that the 3 caves of the Cunning Rabbit have been implemented to the extreme. After entering the house, Mary moved the simple bed in the bedroom, touched the wall and the ground a few times in a specific order, then grabbed a living brick on the ground and pulled it up, and a cellar appeared on the ground. Mary lit a candle and put it down. When she saw that the candle was not extinguished, she went down the ladder to the cellar. There are several moisture-proof boxes in the cellar, with banknotes from various countries neatly stacked inside, mostly American knives. The total value of this money is about 100 million, but the money here is not all of them, just a part of it. Mary took out the bag and took out about $80 million worth of Hong Kong paper. The exchange rate between US dollars and Hong Kong paper is a fixed exchange rate of 1 minute and 7.8 seconds, and 80 million Hong Kong paper is more than 10 million US dollars. The largest denomination of a US knife is $100 with Benjamin Franklin printed on it, which is more than 10 million, which is more than 1,000 stacks, which is more than 100 kilograms. It took Mary several trips to get so much money out of the cellar. Then she restored everything to its original state, put the money in a cardboard box, sealed it, and pulled it out of the squatter using a small cart. But after leaving the squatter, she did not take the money directly to the God of Wealth Dragon, but asked Shaqiang to start driving her home. After arriving home, she took a shower and threw all the clothes she wore today into the garbage. After taking a shower and changing into clean clothes, Mary called Chen Heilung. This phone number was brought by Shaqiang when he came back to report the news. I am Han Chen's wife. Now I have prepared the money and send it to you wherever it needs to be. Send it to Ximei Garden in the New Territories and tell me your license plate number. When you get there, someone will take you to the warehouse. Good. Ximei Garden in the New Territories is a little far from Tsim Sha Tsui. It took Shaqiang almost an hour of driving to get there. Bang, bang, bang! As soon as the car stopped, someone came forward and knocked on their window. After lowering the window, they only heard the other person say, "Follow the black car in front, he will take you to the warehouse." Si Chang followed the instructions and followed the car in front. After twisting and turning for a while, he entered a warehouse. Because Sha Chang had seen Chen Heilung before, he recognized him at a glance. He quickly got out of the car and introduced, "Brother Heilung, this is my sister-in-law Mary. We have brought the compensation. Go get some." Chen Heilung rushed to Zhang Mitzi and said, "Wait." Mary stopped him and said, "Where is my husband?" "Black Tiger, go bring that short winter melon." After Chen Heilung beat Han Chen, he asked the Black Tiger King to imprison him in a water prison. The water prison was said to be a water prison, but it was actually the kind of ditch used for repairing cars. It was more than 1 meter wide, 3 or 4 meters long, and deep. It was only a little over 1 meter, and a cage made of welded steel bars was added on top. Although the trench was filled with water, it was not very deep, but the place was small and narrow. The most important thing was that Han Chen was too short. Others were waist deep. The water was already up to his chest. And the simple water prison didn't even have a place for him to rest. He could only hold on to the steel bars above his head with both hands to prevent him from drowning in his sleep. In fact, it was full of water. Han Chen has been imprisoned in the water prison for less than 24 hours. But he has been obviously soaked in a circle, and the places soaked in water are all covered with white flowers and wrinkles. Especially, it was those 2 hands. Not to mention the fingerprints, the fingers looked several times bigger. When Mary saw her husband in such a miserable state, she quickly stepped forward to check. "Husband, are you okay?" It's okay, what can happen to me? Han Chen, who had not had his teeth brushed all day, tried his best to pretend that nothing was wrong when facing his wife and said with a smile. He also said that it's okay. He didn't look at how your body was soaked. It could be broken by just feeling it. As Mary spoke, tears flowed out uncontrollably. It's really nothing, just think that I fell asleep lying in the bathtub and soaked myself up. Let me tell you that my area is also swollen, so you will be very happy in the future. Han Chen's gag finally made Mary's face look better. I hate it, how long has it been since you said this? Okay, don't be sad, everything is over, I promise I will listen to you in the future. Although Han Chen didn't say it clearly, Mary also knew what he was talking about. At that time, when Han Chen was going to burn down Chen Hailung's warehouse, she stopped him. But Han Chen was angry at that time, and he also with her younger brother beside her, she couldn't say much, and Han Chen didn't listen. That's why so many things happened. Now that Han Chen is telling her this, he is actually admitting her mistake in disguise. No! A hint of softness flashed in Mary's eyes. Let's go home. After that, she called Shaoqiang to come over and help Han Chen walk towards their car. As soon as she took 2 steps, he was stopped by the Black Tiger servant. Chen Hailung, what are you going to do? Haven't I already given you the compensation? Mary said angrily. Don't worry, the money hasn't been ordered yet. Chen Hailung pointed in the direction of Zhang Mizai. There are more than $1,000, and it takes 10 seconds for a banknote counting machine to count 10,000. With 10 banknote counting machines, it can only count 600,000 in 1 minute, and it's still not counting the time required to get it. It costs more than 10 million. Normally, it would take at least half an hour to finish charging. Although Mary was unhappy, she couldn't say anything, so she could only support Han Chen and wait. As time passed, a second passed, and the last banknote was finally counted from the money counting machine. Boss, the amount is correct, converted into Hong Kong paper, it's just over 80 million. Reported by Zhang Mizai. Chen Hailung nodded. Got it. Mary heard their conversation and said, We can go now. Cannot. What do you mean? Literal meaning. Chen Hailung said with a stern expression. The 80 million yuan is just for you to compensate for the loss of my warehouse, but you can't just forget about this short winter melon's attack on me. Otherwise, if others follow my example in the future, will I still have time to make money? What are you going to do? Mary stood in front of Han Chen and said nervously. Don't do anything, since he dares to take action against me, then I will take his hand. Mary didn't know how ruthless Chen Hailung was, but Han Chen knew it. When he heard this, his heart immediately tightened. He didn't care about the majesty of the boss and quickly gave in to Chen Hailung. Brother Hailung, what happened this time is my fault. I won't care about the love of the 3 Tony brothers. Later, I will set up a few tables and have some drinks, and apologize to you in front of my fellow Jianghu colleagues. I just ask you to be noble and let me go. Give you a break. Chen Hailung sneered. I gave you a chance at the beginning, but you wanted to break up with me, and you were the one who made the move first. As you said, you, Han Chen, want face, but I, the god of fortune, don't want face. After saying that, Chen Hailung shouted, Heihu, chop off his hands! Hearing this, the Black Tiger King on the side didn't hesitate at all. He pressed Han Chen's right hand, raised the knife, and separated the hand from his body. This process was so fast that not only Mary did not react, but also the person involved, Han Chen, didn't react. It wasn't until he saw his broken hand that he let out a shrill scream. Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you can quickly send your broken hand to the hospital, you might be able to recover it. If it's too late, then maybe it will be possible. Hearing this, Mary ignored her resentment and hurriedly picked up Han Chen's severed hand, then helped Han Chen get into the car and rushed towards the nearest hospital. Even though Han Chen was not tall, he was actually very tall. He can be considered a tough guy. He was beaten by Chen Hailung's ordinary dwarf mules until he fainted without making a sound. But the pain caused by a broken hand was simply unbearable. Even if he tried hard to suppress his pain, The sound was heard, but the trembling of the body could not be controlled by will. The distressed Mary held him tightly in her arms, tears dripping down. The news that Han Chen had one of his hands chopped off by Chen Hailung soon came. Word spread in the world, and everyone was talking about this conflict for a while. If you asked me, you really can't blame Ke Shenlong for being ruthless in this matter. He just came out to be a middleman. As a result, Han Chen burned down the entire warehouse. Who can tolerate such a thing? You can't say that. It's true that Han Chen burned down Ke Shenlong's warehouse, but didn't he pay 80 million in compensation? He took the money and chopped off his hand, which was a bit inappropriate. 80 million is nothing. I heard that Ke Shenlong originally asked Han Chen to pay 200 million. Later, an Kun came forward to find Deng Bo to make peace, and then the price was reduced to 80 million. It's no wonder 200 million has become 80 million, and I'm not happy with it. Since you can find someone, I'll cut off one of your hands. Gee, this god of wealth dragon is really ruthless. No matter how the rumors spread, everyone has a consensus, that is, the methods of the god of wealth dragon are fierce and ruthless. In the past, they only knew that they were rich, but now they know their reputation. It is better not to offend as much as possible. Big D, who was playing at the golf course, raised his eyebrows when he heard Chao Mao's report. Are you saying that after Han Chen's wife gave him 80 million, the god of wealth dragon chopped off one of Han Chen's hands? That's right. Chao Mao nodded. Han Chen is still lying in the hospital, and it is not certain whether his hand can be reattached. Here you go! Big D cheered. Although Ke Shenlong and I have nothing to deal with, what he did this time has greatly increased the prestige of us and Lianxing. We and the Lianxing people are just trying to be so arrogant. Who dares to provoke us, cut off our hands or stamp our feet? Let me tell you, the god of wealth dragon is still not ruthless enough. If it were me, Han Chen would not be able to keep even one of his hands. Al, who also received the news, had a significantly different reaction from Big D's arrogance. After De Tu came over to report to him, he confirmed the details several times before finally confirming the matter. Why has this god of wealth dragon changed so much now? I remember he wasn't like this before. In his eyes, Chen Hailung originally looked more like a businessman than a club member. He always greeted everyone with a smile, and was not as cruel as he is now. Datu, you have been keeping an eye on Ke Shenlong lately. No matter what trouble there is, you must report it to me immediately, Il said with a solemn expression. Clear. Boss. These various reactions from outside have no influence on Chen Hailung at all. He is currently concerned about other issues. After cutting off Han Chen's hand yesterday, he received a system task completion prompt. The reward for this mission is the opportunity to cooperate with Department Store King Xiao Zhengban. Because this kind of reward appeared for the first time, Chen Hailung was worried that there would be something unusual, so he received the reward alone in the office. But after receiving the reward, nothing happened. Just when he was puzzled, Zhang Mitzi knocked on the door and came in to report. Boss, Hong Kong's department store King Xiao Jing wanted to make an appointment with you. Zhang Nazai's words instantly solved Chen Hailung's doubts. He didn't really care about whether to cooperate with this department store king. What he cared about was whether there were problems with the system. Now Zhang Nazai's report can make him sure about the system. There was no problem and the reward has been cashed into the account. Speaking of this Xiao Zhengban, he can be regarded as a legend on Hong Kong Island. He owns several large department stores alone. In addition to the first time, he is also involved in transportation, real estate, manufacturing, etc. Business. People in Hong Kong will call him the king of department stores when they raise him. Although Chen Hailung is now somewhat famous in the underground society of Hong Kong Island, he does not have much interaction with such big businessmen who do formal business, let alone familiarity with each other. He doesn't even know what the other person looks like. If this is not a reward given by the system, he will most likely not deal with such a big boss. There is no other reason. This kind of big boss is more protective of his own feathers and will not easily let yourself be associated with the underworld figures, and when it comes time to find the underworld, you will probably encounter something difficult to solve. Although you can make a lot of money by helping, the risks are not small, and he is not short of money. How is it possible to dip into that muddy water? But since it is a reward given by the system, it is different. Where to meet and when? Xiao Jingbin said that at the Grand Hotel in Mongkok at 7 p.m. Chen Heilong nodded. Just give them a reply and say I'll be there on time at 7 o'clock. Okay, boss. At 7 o'clock that night, Chen Heilong took a car to the Grand Hotel in Mongkok. With him was the Black Tiger King and a dozen Black Tiger servants. When he went upstairs, the Black Tiger servants were still scattered everywhere downstairs to keep watch. He only brought the Black Tiger King to the restaurant. Sir, do you have an appointment? Asked the customer at the door of the restaurant. Yes, Xiaojing made an appointment at 7 o'clock in the evening. Okay, you two, please come with me. Following the guidance of the consultant, Chen Heilong came to the window seat with the best view of the restaurant. At this time, an old man was already sitting in that seat. The old man looked about 60 or 70 years old. He was not tall and relatively thin. At first glance, he looked like an ordinary little old man on the street. But the moment the other person raised his head and looked at him, the gleam that flashed in his eyes allowed Chen Heilong to conclude that this old man was nothing. Simple role. Hello, I'm Xiao Jingben. The old man stood up and stretched out his hand. I am Chen Heilong. Chen Heilong reached out and shook hands with the other party. I wonder what Mr. Chiao asked me to come here today to talk about. Brother, if you don't mind, I will definitely have a meal at the next table. Although Xiao Jingben said it very politely, the meaning of the eviction order was already obvious. Black Tiger, go to that table and wait for me while you eat. Yes, boss. Xiao Jingben glanced at the back of the Black Tiger King and said approvingly. The ability of a leader depends on how well his subordinates execute his orders. I see qualities in you that many people don't have. Your subordinates don't hesitate or discount your orders. What a joke. Maybe it's because of my profession, it's different from yours. Haha, maybe. Xiao Jingben chuckled and got to the point. I invited you here today because I want to do some business with you. After listening to Xiao Jingben's narration, Chen Heilong finally understood why Xiao Jingben came to him today. In addition to department stores, Xiao Jingben also has many factories. And these factories are not limited to Hong Kong Island. There are factories he opened in Southeast Asia and other places. These factories mainly manufacture clothing, shoes, and hats. In addition to manufacturing goods for his shopping mall, the factory also takes outsourcing orders from some big-name brands. For example, some internationally renowned sports brands, or non-mainline products of big-name luxury goods. When OEM makes something, it is naturally impossible to make only 100 pieces of raw materials and only provide 100 pieces of raw materials. This also involves issues such as defectiveness and loss, so generally 20 to 30% more raw materials will be supplied. At that time, the management of those big brands was not so strict. After checking the good products, even the defective products were directly handed over to the factory for destruction, let alone in used materials. Then Xiao Jingben sensed a business opportunity. Genuine raw materials, genuine craftsmanship, and genuine processes, then what is made is not genuine. But even though the goods were made, and some of the goods were even mixed into the genuine products through connections, no one discovered them. But that was all a small matter after all. With so many factories under his command, if they were producing at full capacity, they wouldn't be able to sell them all. Moreover, selling imitations will seriously affect his credibility, so he can't do it himself, or even find friends. You must know that the costs of big brands are not that high. They mainly sell brands, especially those luxury goods. Things priced at 10,000 to 20,000 yuan may cost only 100 yuan. 1% of the cost price, even if he sells it at a discount of 10% of the original price, is 10 times the profit, so naturally he wants to give it a try. So, he thought of finding He Dao and smuggling these goods overseas for sale. How to divide the cooperation? Chen Heilong asked. There are two ways. One is that I give it to you at half the original price. No matter how much it is sold, it is yours, Qiao Shengben said. The other way is that we do it together. I am responsible for the production and manufacturing, and you are responsible for the transportation and sales. No matter how much we sell, we will share half of it. Both options have their own pros and cons. The first one is definitely more profitable, but the second one has the smallest risk. Seeing Chen Heilong didn't speak for a while, Qiao Shengben continued. If you are not sure for the time being, you can press the second one comes. If you want to change the way of cooperation in the future, you can always do it. What do you think? I came to you because of your channels. I heard that you have a wide range of channels and can sell. This method is already quite sincere, almost equivalent to forcing money to him. At this time, Chen Heilong also understood where the system's rewards are reflected. Under normal circumstances, such a profitable business, even if Qiaojing did not do it himself, there would still be a lot of people competing for it, let alone his turn. There is a high probability that he would not even hear about it. Since it is a reward from the system, then there is no way for him to accept it. Principle. In this case, let's have a happy cooperation. Chen Heilong stretched out his hand and said, Happy cooperation. Hong Kong Island is one of the top 3 financial centers in the world, and its various urban facilities are naturally world-class. Especially in terms of medical level, he is ranked 4th in the world, and can even be ranked 1st in the world in many aspects. He has been fighting with America back and forth. A broken hand like Han Chen's might be a troublesome thing in other places, but in Hong Kong Island, especially in the top private hospitals on Hong Kong Island, it is not a problem at all. After the operation, after examination by the attending doctor, 90% of the original condition can be maintained, and there will be no hindrance to life. It's just that my broken hand has just been restored, so I can't smoke or drink, I must avoid food, and I have to undergo rehabilitation training every day. High-quality medical support means high treatment prices. It is conservatively estimated that the cost for his treatment and discharge will be at least 1 million. But this amount of money is nothing compared to his losses. When Qinshan learned that Han Chen's hand had been chopped off, he let his wife push him in a wheelchair to visit him, regardless of his own injuries. You are already like this, why do you come to see me? Han Chen, who had his arm in a plaster on his chest, looked pretty good. Brother Chen, I'm sorry, it's all me. Don't say this. As soon as Qinshan started to speak, he was interrupted by Han Chen waving his hand. We are here to fool around, and all we earn is this small amount of money. How can we be worthy of this? It's all because of me. If I hadn't trusted those bastards, I wouldn't be like this, Qinshan said with guilt. There is no point in saying this now, just think of it as a lesson learned, Han Chen said with a sigh on his face. When you go out to fool around, you have to admit your mistakes and stand upright when you are beaten. We are the ones who were blamed for what happened this time. We have to take the loss or not. If you don't have the strength, don't think about going back for revenge. Otherwise, you will bring disaster to yourself and the people around you. Clear. Qinshan lowered his head and said. No matter how unwilling he was, he knew that there was basically no chance of a comeback in this matter. Old established societies like Lianxing were originally much better than the Ni family, and this time they were caught by Chen Heilong. If the dispute continues, they won't get any benefits from their side, and they may get even more. Moreover, the 200 million yuan worth of goods is said to be worth 200 million yuan, which refers to the selling price, not their cost price. Things like number 4 are extremely profitable. They got this batch of goods from South America, but the high-purity stuff they got directly is called maida, which cannot be used directly. It must be diluted. The diluted it is called Hong Kong paper. However, the packaged and wholesale price of the diluted Hong Kong paper is the same as the US dollar they bought. This is like converting 100 US dollars into 780 Hong Kong paper. But when selling Hong Kong paper to others, they have to ask others to charge $100 for 100 Hong Kong paper. Including the cost of manual transportation of auxiliary materials, etc., their cost of 200 million yuan of goods is not even 1/5 of the cost. No. Although this loss was a bit painful for Chen Shan, he could still bear it, and he gritted his teeth and accepted it. Compared to him, Han Chen suffered more losses. Not only was the goods swallowed, but his hands were also cut. I actually invested 80 million in gold and silver. But the world is like this, the strength is not as good as others. Even if someone breaks your teeth, you still have to swallow it, and at the same time make others smile. On the other side, casually as the Heiliansheng election is approaching, the competition is becoming more and more anxious. All day long, ALDE promises to win votes. Chen Hailung naturally cannot remain indifferent. The only vote he has that can determine his death is Da Buhai. Quan, the uncle generation boss of the Guanzhizhen family, colluded with his uncles from the Yutubio family. This number was simply not enough to seal the victory, so he set his sights on Long Zhen, the uncle generation of the Guanzhizhen family. The reason why I chose Long Zhen because the uncles in the club also have different levels. Needless to say, the only one at the top is Deng Bo. The second grade is Long Zhen and Chuan Bao. The remaining uncles it can be regarded as the third gear. If you can get these two in the second gear, you will be invincible to a certain extent. Guan Zixin, where are you? I need to talk to you about something. Guan Zixin, who was eating in a noodle shop, knew what he was looking for when he received a call from Chen Hailung. Of course he would not refuse such a good thing brought to his door. I am now eating at the Chaos Han Noodle House on Shanghai Street. Okay, I'll come find you in a moment. Half an hour after hanging up the phone, Chen Hailung took his younger brother to the noodle shop. After the meeting, Chen Hailung didn't waste any time. He took the brown paper bags one by one from the plane and threw them in front of Guan Zixin. Guan Zixin, here's 1 million, give it to Long Zhen and let him choose me. No problem, don't worry, I will definitely bring it to you. The official Sengxi who opened the brown paper bag said with a smile. Okay, that's it. After saying that, Chen Hailung stood up and left. Although Guan Zixin is the leader of the club like him, this guy has no ability. He only knows how to eat, drink, whore, gamble, and smoke. If it weren't for Long Zhen's support, there would be no way he would be able to take the position of leader. Because of this guy is almost regarded as a dog in the club and is completely unpopular. Chen Hailung didn't bother to say anything to him. The whole process from entering the store to leaving the store took less than a minute. The next day, early in the morning, a drunk Guan Zixin sat in a tea restaurant and complained to his younger brother. 1 million, it's all the fault of the god of wealth dragon. He didn't give it to me sooner or later, but he only gave it to me when there was a ball game last night. As a result, I lost everything. That Manchester United is really a bastard. Who would have thought that he would lose like this? My little brother has long been accustomed to the virtues of a gambling boss. Guan Zixin can have money in his hands. As long as he has money, he has to give it to the casinos sooner or later. If this guy didn't have great ideas, he would almost never ask the casino to borrow money to play. If it were, I'm afraid it would have been chopped into 10 or 8 sections. Boss, you should take less medicine in the future and stop gambling every day, otherwise sooner or later you will have to get yourself involved. The younger brother said angrily. No. Guan Zixin denied it flatly. I just played a little bit, and I didn't take drugs. Is it morning or night? When Guan Zixin heard this, he smiled dully. He looked like a typical high-end guy, and his younger brother didn't even bother to talk about him. If Guan Zixin hadn't brought him out, he would have been pretty good to him, so he wouldn't have bothered to care about this. Boss. Here is 1 million, remember to give it to Uncle Long Zhen, don't turn around and gamble with it again. Thank you? Guan Zixin's subordinate Qian said with a smile. I won't gamble. I have made an appointment with the boss to come here to collect money. I will give him the money later. Your business has been very good recently. I think the new girls here are of very high standard. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Zhen walked into the tea restaurant with a pipe in his mouth and straight steps. But along the way, his eyes were always focused on the prostitutes outside. Uncle Long Zhen. When the younger brother saw Long Zhen, he stood up and said hello. Boss. Guan Zixin followed with a greeting. Where's the money? When Long Zhen asked, his eyes were still staring out the window. Guan Zixin took out the money from his bag and handed it to Long Zhen. The god of wealth Long asked you to choose him. Long Zhen took the money, turned to Guan Zixin and said, That girl in yellow has really big breasts, is that true? As soon as these words came out, the younger brother knew what Long Zhen meant. His boss likes to gamble, and his boss's boss is lustful. Every time he comes, he has sex for free. He has long been used to it, and then he ordered to his subordinates, Ah Chang, my name is Chuan Huang. Come in, that girl in clothes. Yes, boss. When the younger brother went out to pick up the girl, Long Zhen counted the money in his hand. Why only 500,000? He gave so much, I gave it all to you. Guan Zixin rubbed his temples and said with an innocent look. The younger brother was smoking a cigarette and staring at the money in Long Zhen's hand without saying anything. He just gave Guan Zixin 1 million, and when he poured it into Long Zhen's hand, he changed his mind. It became 500,000, and he immediately blacklisted half of it. Needless to say, he must have wanted to use the money to recoup his losses. Guan Zixin also knew that he had broken the rules of the society, and he did not dare to look at his younger brother. He was not enough. There wasn't much of a reaction there. This money is really easy to earn. First, Big D used money to buy votes, and then the god of wealth dragon gave money. If you vote every few months, you can get a lot of profits without doing anything. Don't be too happy. Then, should we choose Big D or Wealth Dragon? Guan Zixin asked. There is no need to think about it. Wealth Dragon gave me 500,000, and Big D only gave me 100,000. I must choose Wealth Dragon. When the younger brother on the side heard this, his eyes almost widened. When Big D came over with the money, he was right next to him. What Big D gave was clearly 200,000, but his boss also kept half of it. The younger brother was shocked. The look in his eyes made Guan Zixin feel a little unnatural, and he became more and more afraid to have any eye contact with him. What about the money given by Big D? Guan Zixin asked Long Zhen. Refund him. Long Zhen took out 100,000 yuan from the 500,000 yuan and handed it to Guan Zixin. While he was talking, the girl in yellow clothes that Long Zhen ordered was brought in. Jump ahead and show me. Hearing this, the girl in yellow stood in front of Long Zhen and jumped up and down. Long Zhen was very satisfied with the girl's genuineness and took her away directly. I'm leaving. After Long Zhen left, Guan Zixin, who knew he was in the wrong, immediately stood up and left through the back door without giving his younger brother a chance to speak. Stop gambling. The younger brother stood up and shouted at his back. I'm not lucky and I don't know how to do it. I'll lose you to death. Knock, knock, knock. Hearing the knock on the door, Chen Heilong reached out and patted Karen's head. Karen quickly stood up, straightened his clothes, and wiped the corners of his mouth. Come in. After Zhang Mitzi opened the door and walked in, he walked to the desk without looking back. Boss, this is Xiao Jingbin's delivery note. Take a look. Chen Heilong took the list and glanced at it casually. Since this was his first cooperation, Xiao Xing was more cautious at first, and did not plan to smuggle those lucrative imitations. Instead, he bought a batch of electrical appliances. The smuggling destination was not those developed countries, but in the direction of mainland China. These electrical appliances are all OEM products manufactured by this guy's factory. Apart from being less famous and having no after-sales warranty, the quality is not worse than those made by big manufacturers. But this problem isn't smuggling. It's not a problem at all. There is no warranty for parallel imports anyway. As long as the price is cheap enough, you can make a lot of money. Just go and make arrangements. After Chen Heilong signed the shipping order, he handed it back to Jimmy Zai. From now on, you will also be in charge of Xiao Jingbin's side. If you have any problems, please report to me directly. Yes, boss. This is the first time to cooperate with a giant like Xiao Jingbin. In the past, Chen Heilun would have been more concerned than he is now. But today, his thoughts were not here at all, but drifted to He Lianxing Main Hall. Today is the voting day for the He Lianxing Hall election. Both he and Big Da are always paying attention to the developments there. Moreover, he also asked Jimmy Zai to arrange for his younger brother to guard outside the main hall, hoping to get the information as soon as possible. The voting results of the uncles. Because He Lianxing was born in Hongmen, the election method still followed the Hongmen custom, first setting up a tea array and talking about tea. The tea array should be very particular, and the tea arrays corresponding to different events are also different. Similarly, whether you are discussing matters with hostile forces or discussing matters among fellow students, you should use the tea ceremony to confirm each other's opinions first. What is important is that peace is the most important thing. If you can talk first, and if you can't reach an agreement, then talk about other things. Hongmen the tea array mainly has 4 functions: testing, asking for help, visiting friends, and fighting. Test is to use the tea array to test whether the other party is a Hongmen brother. Ask for help is to use the tea array to imply that one is in danger and needs help. Visiting friends is to use the tea array to find out whether the other party is at home when visiting friends. Whether or not. Fighting means competing with each other. This time it is to select a new seat for the society. Deng Bo, who led the election, put up a plum blossom formation. There is nothing special about the way of breaking the plum blossom formation. Just choose from it. 1 cup is enough. However, you cannot speak when drinking tea. You can only express your position to the person hosting the tea ceremony by how to hold and drink it, and how to put the teacup down after drinking. The reason for doing this is still the same as the old rules. We value harmony and avoid breaking up the brotherhood due to disagreements over different ideas. When Uncle Deng was setting up the tea party, Shigo was the first to speak. Alu is the most caring to us elders. What happened a few days ago is he immediately went to the police station to bail us out, and we paid a lot of money. It is common for members of these societies in Hong Kong to be arrested, and each police station will handle separate cases. If the police want to discuss the big boss, they can even make it so that right after they are released on bail, another police station comes to take the person away. Although the bail money is supposed to be paid at the police station every week according to the police's request, and it will be refunded after the court session, but how can these society bosses follow those rules, and for the convenience of the police, these bosses, those trivial matters, small cases will never be handed over to the Department of Justice for trial. Therefore, for community members, it is basically impossible to come back once the bail is paid. Even uncles and uncles will sometimes be stretched if they are dealt with like this every day. Lo paid for them, which can be regarded as a disguised benefit. However, Fei Hua expressed different opinions on Shigo's words. He asked Huinyo to ask us to support him. If he doesn't pay, how can we ask ourselves to pay for it ourselves? Fei Hua actually has always been a little confused about this matter. They were just having a family gathering that day and didn't do anything extraordinary. But how could the police find them accurately and arrest them all? They were at that time he didn't do anything illegal or disciplinary. There was no point in doing this except to make them feel disgusted. So he had reason to suspect that Alu did this on purpose, trying to sell him and Fei Hua a favor in order to get them 2 votes. But colluding with the police is a very serious crime in the club. There is no conclusive evidence, so he can't talk nonsense. He can only use such words to dilute Shigo's good impression of Alu. He just finished speaking. Uncle Biao immediately said, "Now the guy who plays chicken in the restaurant is from Wan Chai. Logically speaking, it is Jordan's turn, and Alu is the most suitable one. Wan Chai is at the southern foot of Hong Kong Island, while Jordan, located in Kowloon, is to the north of Victoria Harbour. Victoria Harbour is located in the core area of Hong Kong Island, dividing the most essential core area of Hong Kong Island into the north and south sides. Both sides are financial and commercial centers. Hong Kong people are very obsessed with the theory of feng shui. The rapid water in Victoria Harbour and the slow water outflow are harmonious and windy. The water forms two cornucopias of canal water at the two turns in the middle, which makes Hong Kong people think that this is a natural place to gather wealth. So Uncle Biao at this time, using feng shui theory to talk about things, can be regarded as a way of balancing. But when he said this, Shuang Fandong expressed a different opinion. Then why not Sun Wan? Big D is the most powerful now, and many of his subordinates follow him. Sun Wan is also north of Victoria Harbour, which defies Uncle Biao's idea of balance. Anyway, A Lock and Big D's territories are in the north, so why not choose the stronger Big D? But as soon as he said this, the conspiracy exploded. He immediately continued. Since we are talking about strength, why not choose Kai Shenlong? He is the most powerful one now, and he also made us and Lianqing famous a few days ago. When the old man from Ali's iron ticket warehouse heard this, he said dissatisfiedly, Humph! His men are in trouble. Last time, the lame man on Qishan Road was beaten for no reason. As a result, Kai Shenlong said that those who don't know are not guilty, so forget it. You can tell me whether it is outrageous or not. Anyway, I think Kai Shenlong's actions are unfair. You old man, you might as well take the right path if you're not going to cause trouble for a short meal. Quan Mao choked and said, Besides, it's the lame man who is stupid. He didn't report his name when he was beaten. Otherwise, there would be so many things. I decided to support the god of wealth dragon. After Quan Bao finished speaking, he looked at Long Zhen beside him. What about you? Long Zhen, who was holding a pipe in his mouth, felt indescribably disgusted when he heard this. He was very happy to accept Chen Hailing's 500,000 before, but when he heard that the other party got double the amount, feeling a little unhappy. So he didn't want to express his opinion, and said casually, Still thinking. Depend on. Quan Mao rolled his eyes at him, then turned to look at another uncle. Mao? Big D is as good as Big D, ale is as good as ale. Kai Shenlong also has the advantages of Kai Shenlong. As a neutralist, Mao Zedong said this, which made Quan Bang very unhappy. What you said means you didn't say it. Could you please make it clearer? Mao Zhi used to owe Chuan Bao a favor, but now that he heard Chuan Bao say this, he had no choice but to respond. Then it's the god of wealth dragon. Fei Hua? Wealth dragon. Fei Hua responded. Fei Hua had doubts about Allah, and he didn't like Big D's domineering style, so now he chose Kai Shenlong without hesitation. At this point, it's all over, and Mao is defeated. Fei Hua and Quan, the big boss far north, have already occupied 4 of the 11 votes. If Long Zhen votes for Chen Hailing again, the victory will be basically guaranteed. Now all Long Zhen needs to do is express his position again. The election can be declared over. Have you thought about it? Chuan Bao asked Long Zhen forcefully. Long Zhen was still a little timid about Chuan Bao. Besides, he had accepted Chen Hailing's money anyway, so he had to vote for Chen Hailing both emotionally and rationally. I mean... As soon as he opened his mouth, he was interrupted by the old ghost. Lu is really for the club. He said he will lead the club into Tsim Sha Sui. After hearing this, Quan Bao immediately choked and said, Everyone talks about himself. If you can do things for the club, can you say you can do it for yourself? Entering Tsim Sha Sui is the only thing that matters. I also said that I want to win the moon. Damn it, you've collected a lot of money from people. Why are you pushing people everywhere? What did you say? Quan Bao glared. You know it in your heart. Find out how tall your mother is. Say it again. The old ghost said unhappily. Tea, please. Uncle Deng, who had been silent, interrupted the argument between the two. When it came time to ask for tea, everyone could no longer talk and each stood up to get the teacup. This step of getting tea was just to express his attitude without opening his mouth, the old ghost. Chuan Bao and Shuang Fandong took the teacup from 3 directions of the tea tray. Whichever side of the heart is in the camp, they will take the tea on that side. But Long Zhen chose the teacup in the middle at this time, expressing his neutral attitude. In order to confirm Long Zhen's attitude, Deng Bo took the tea for the second time in a row. This time Long Zhen's choice remained unchanged, and he still chose the middle. Now Deng Bo had concerns in his heart. On the third day among the candidates, he is most optimistic about A Le, followed by Chen Hailung, and finally Big D. Among Chen Hailung and Big D, he doesn't like Big D's domineering style at all, but for Chen Hailung, but he didn't have any prejudice. He just felt that Chen Hailung was still young and not as mature and prudent as A Le. He still needed 2 more years of experience. When I was young, a group of uncles had already chosen the people to talk to. At that time, I thought, these old people are already old and have no power, so why should they be chosen? Later I found out that some of them had seniority, and everyone would respect what they said. Money can make the world go round, and it's okay to get some benefits, but if you choose whoever gives you more money, then it's better to auction it. We have no credibility, what else do we need? Faced with other people, I can be strong with explosion, but after facing Uncle Deng, my momentum is inevitably a bit weaker. I think Kai Shenlong is the most capable and can help the club, so I support him so hard. I have nothing to say, Uncle Deng said. The association cannot let one person dominate, it must be balanced. I choose Ale. Uncle Deng expressed his opinion directly. As he raised his hand, the old man and Uncle Biao, who were originally Lin Huila's iron ticket warehouse, immediately raised their hands to vote for Ale. In fact, even now, Chen Hailung still has a great chance of winning. Among the 11 uncles, Chuan Bao, Mao Pei, Fei Hua, Big Boss Quan, and Long Zhen support him. Shuang Fanong, Len Gai supports Big D. Deng Bo, Uncle Biao, Lao Guishi, and Shai Go support A Lu. With a vote of 5-2 to 4, Chen Hailung had no chance of losing. But unexpectedly, Long Zhen suddenly raised his hand to support A Lu, making the vote become 4-2, compared to 5. Seeing this result, everyone didn't know how to complain. The situation that was originally a sure win was changed to a completely different ending by Long Zhen's temporary betrayal. But in fact, Long Zhen also had his reasons for making such a choice. The reason was that he was originally dissatisfied with the fact that he got 500,000 less than the collusion. If Chen Hailung had the upper hand in the vote, it would be fine. He just voted and he would have picked up 500,000 for nothing. But he didn't. During the voting, Kai Shenlong tied with A Le. Although the two seemed to have a tie, Deng Bo's voice in the club was much higher than that of Chuan Bao. Although he and Chuan Bao were both uncles in the second echelon senior, but the gangsters have always outnumbered him. If he votes for A Le in this situation, A Le will definitely buy his favor, and he will be able to beat the gangsters in the future. Wait until the next election and someone will spend money to buy votes. He will be able to get more than what he got. As for Chen Hailung, he doesn't care at all. In his opinion, it's just a matter of returning the 500,000 yuan. Among the 3 candidates, who has the calmest mentality at the moment, except Big D, who doesn't do what he wants? After being exposed one after another, and Long Zhen returning the money to buy votes, he knew that he had no chance of winning this time. If he had lost to conspiracy, of course he would not be willing to accept it, but this time he lost due to lack of strength. Even if he felt unhappy, he could only admit defeat. So while A Le and Chen Hailung were waiting for the election results, he could take his wife to the golf course to play in leisurely time. Bang! After hitting the ball with one shot, Mrs. D clapped her hands and applauded. You have relaxed a lot this time, and your skills have improved significantly. The mentality is different. Big D laughed at himself. I am not as powerful as others, so there is no need to fight for anything. Just do your own thing honestly and do your own thing well. Anyway, there will be a chance in 2 years, so there is no need to fight for it this time. It's best if you think so. I'm worried that you will get into trouble. What kind of person do you think your husband is? Although I am quite domineering in my work, I have always followed the rules. In terms of rules, I can't compare to others. There is nothing to say. If you want to blame me, I can only blame myself for my lack of strength. I want to sit on that, just continue to work hard to accumulate strength. Sister-in-law Dee smiled happily and said, "Whatever you want to eat tonight, I'll make it for you when I go back." While the two were talking, a big D-headed horse with long hair came hurriedly. "Boss! Sister-in-law! What's wrong? Are the election results out? Come out, the new seat chosen by the uncles is Allah." "What?" Big D glared and said, "How could it be him? The god of wealth dragon lost the election. Please explain to me the specific situation clearly." There was indeed a majority of people who supported Kai Shenlong, but Dengbo said that he could not let one family dominate and needed balance, so he voted for Allah. Then when Allah and Kai Shenlong tied, Long Zhen cast the decisive vote. "Damn it, what are these old guys thinking, shouting about balance every day, they are so tall." Big D angrily hit the club next to the railing, bending the club directly. The reason why he was so angry was because he was also a victim of balance. This was not the first time for him. I want to stand up and choose a hall. Before Chen Hailung rose to power, he had long been the most hostile among the hall leaders in Lianqing. Whether it was his subordinates, financial strength, or territory, there was no hall leader in the entire society. The master could compare with him. But when he wanted to choose, his uncles said that there must be a balance. Anyway, he was still young and could choose later. As a result, he met an unreasonable master like Chen Hailung later. But he was convinced when he lost to Chen Hailung. He couldn't compete with people who wanted money and people, so he deserved to lose. But he didn't recognize Allah at all when he was elected. In his eyes, Allah has always been nothing. He's a bastard with little ability. His territory is only as big as Jotun's. He doesn't have many outstanding subordinates, and he doesn't have much money. Not to mention competing with him, even the fish head Mark is better than that guy. Let him compete with him. He was already very unhappy that Allah was running on the same stage, and now that guy is still sitting in the office. It would be damned if he could be convinced. On the other side, the gangbang came out of the main hall and went directly to the public phone booth on the roadside. Toss in a coin and call Zhan Mazai, telling him the results of today's election and Long Zhen's betrayal in detail. After all, he accepted 1 million from Chen Hailung. How he lost must be explained clearly. "Yes. Thank you, Uncle Quan Bao. I will tell my boss about it." After Quan Bao finished responding, he thought for a moment and added, "Tell Aaron not to go too far. After all, we are all in the same club. This depends on what the boss wants, but I will take your word for it." After hanging up the phone, Jimmy immediately went to report to Chen Hailung. Chen Hailung was having dinner with Karen at a high-end restaurant in Mongkok. Because he didn't like the noise around him when eating, he booked the entire restaurant. During the meal, except for the tall black tiger servants, there were only restaurant waiters standing in the distance waiting at any time. He actually didn't care about the results of this election. He came to run for the election because of the system. Because of the mission, he had a completely random attitude as to whether he could be chosen. Otherwise, he wouldn't have just bought the tickets for Quan Bao, Long Zhen and Big Brother Quan. With his financial resources, even if he took the money to buy the tickets of those uncles, it's not a problem to buy them all. I only bought these few because I wanted to see how many people are willing to support him. When Zhan Mitzi arrived at the restaurant, he had just started eating. When he saw the boss eating, Zhan Mitzi, he didn't come forward to disturb him, he just stood silently in the distance and waited patiently. By the time Chen Hailung put down his knife and fork, it was already half an hour later. "Are the election results out?" Chen Hailung asked casually. "When it comes out, the person chosen by the uncles to be the trusted seat is Allah." "Oh?" Although Chen Hailung was a little surprised, he didn't take it seriously. "I didn't expect that this silent ale would have so many supporters." "Do you know who chose him?" "Uncle Deng, Old Ghost, Uncle Biao, Bad Dog, and Long Zhen." Long Zhen's name made Chen Hailung frown slightly. "Did Long Zhen return the money before the election?" "No." Zhan Mazai's answer made Chen Hailung's lips feel cold. "It's interesting. He took my money but didn't do anything for me. Long Zhen really thought that because of his status as an uncle, I wouldn't dare to do anything to him. Although Chen Heilung didn't care whether he could be elected, he couldn't ignore being treated like a fool. Just as he was about to speak, a system task prompt suddenly came to his mind. The system issues a mission: make Guan Zixin and Long Zhen pay the price. Mission completion reward: obtain 100% loyalty from the Black Bear King. Originally, Chen Heilung was planning to take care of Long General. Now that he has a system mission, it is even more impossible to let the old guy go. Let the plane come over. I have something for him to do. Yes. Not long after, the plane arrived in front of Chen Heilung. Boss. Do you know Long Zhen and Guan Zixin? No. Bring them to me. Yes, boss. Guan Zixin, as the leader of Lianxing, can be recognized by many people. The plane found his location easily. When the plane came to the door, this guy had just woken up and was eating in a tea restaurant. He saw the door. Suddenly several vans came, and when a group of men in black got out, Guan Zixin did not realize that these people were here to see him. This kind of scene is often seen in Hong Kong Island, and he has not offended anyone recently. Naturally not worried at all, fortunately, he stretched his neck and waited to watch the excitement. But who would have expected, when the person walked in, he came directly to his table. Guan Zixin? The plane asked. Who are you? Do I know you? Guan Zixin frowned and said. It doesn't matter who I am, my boss wants you to come over. The plane's rude attitude brought a bit of coldness to Guan Zixin's face. It's a joke, I have to go if your boss invites me to go. Do you know who I am? You actually have the courage to talk to me in this tone. Boy, the place you are standing now is the territory of Lianxing. If you dare to cause trouble on our club's territory, do you really think that we in Lianxing are all fake? As soon as he finished speaking, the younger brother beside him immediately stood up and stared at the plane. But the plane didn't look at these guys at all. It just glanced around and said coldly, Brother Heilung is doing something, you should know the situation early. Get out of the way. With one sentence, the momentum of Guan Zixin's subordinates dropped significantly. The results of the club's seat election have been announced, and as those who follow Guan Zixin, they naturally know that Guan Zixin hacked Long Zhen's 500,000 yuan. Now that Chen Heilung has sent his younger brother to come to the door, it goes without saying that it must be for this matter. If someone from a hostile society comes to make trouble, then they, the younger brothers, cannot let others arrest the boss no matter what. But among the big bosses of their own society, they, the younger brothers, dare not get involved rashly, lest they die without knowing how. Guan Zixin is no longer as calm as before. How could he have imagined that his boss would actually die because he got less money than the gangbang and then switched sides, which really screwed him up. And he didn't expect that Chen Heilung's reaction would be so violent. He directly sent his subordinates to arrest him without giving him any room for negotiation. Wait a minute, I'll finish my meal first. When Guan Zixin said this, his eyes rolled around, thinking about how to escape. But the plane had no intention of giving him this chance. After you finish eating, come on, let me feed you. After saying that, the plane grabbed the rice on the table and stuffed it into Guan Zixin's mouth. When Guan Zixin was arrested, Long Zhen was eating alone at home. Even though he was the uncle of Lianxing, he had all kinds of glory outside, but his home was extremely deserted, with no wife and no heirs. In fact, there has always been no shortage of women around him, but most of the ones before he rose to power left him. After he rose to power, he was worried that they had other agendas, and he spent many years squatting in a miserable kiln. By the time he came out of the suffering kiln, he was already in his 50s. He had been delayed by going back and forth. Now, even if he wanted to have a son and a half, he was still unable to do so, so he could only be alone. Even this meal was bought and cooked by himself on his way home after a meeting in the main hall. The food was put on the table, and after just 2 bites, he heard the sound of footsteps coming from outside the door. With a hint of curiosity, I glanced towards the door and saw, bang! A big hole was opened in the door by an axe. After all, he has been on the street for so many years, and his reaction is still fast enough. When he saw someone breaking down the door, he didn't hesitate at all, opened the window and was about to open the door. Let's talk after running away. It's a pity that he both underestimated the opponent's scoring speed and overestimated his current skill and size. The plane outside the door took the little brother from the first axe blow to breaking through the door, which took less than 5 seconds in total. When the plane and his younger brothers filed in, Long Jen had just stood up from the stool and didn't even have time to step out. After all, Long Jen was a big shot who had seen the wind and waves. Seeing that he had no chance to run away, he simply sat down again and shouted at the plane. "Who are you? Do you know who I am? I am Long Jen, the uncle of Helianch. You dare to come to my house and act wild. I think you don't want to live anymore." Reporting your family status is the first thing a Taoist priest should do when there is a conflict. After all, there are so many societies in Hong Kong, and there are hundreds of thousands of dwarf mules alone. It is inevitable that there will be some wrong person at the wrong door. Reporting your name also avoids unnecessary disasters and conflicts. "Oh, I'm looking for you." The plane let out a ferocious laugh. "My boss, Qianlong, invites you to come over and have a chat." Hearing Chen Hailung's name, Long Jen's heart suddenly skipped a beat. How could he have imagined that Chen Hailung's reaction would be so violent? Just after the meeting was over, he sent his younger brother to come and arrest him. But as an uncle, he has the dignity of an uncle, making it impossible for him to bow to Chen Hailung's younger brother. "Wait a minute, I need to call Dumbledore." Long Jen knew he was in the wrong. At this time, the only person he could turn to was Uncle Deng. But the plane would not care about him so much. He only listened to Chen Hailung's orders and didn't take any of his uncle seriously. "Hit your mother!" The plane raised his hand and overturned Long Jen's dining table, then stepped forward and slapped Long Jen so hard that he fell down. "Tie him up and take him away," chirping. The younger brother who came with him immediately stepped forward and tied up Long Jen. On the top of Peak Peak in the suburbs of Tsuanwan, Long Jen was locked in a wooden cage. He looked at Chen Hailung standing next to the cage in horror. "Aaron, you should think clearly. No matter what, I am also an uncle in the club. Even if I make any mistakes, I have to open an incense hall in the club for everyone to judge. If you dare to lynch me, you are violating gang rules." How could he have thought that Chen Hailung would dare to treat him like this? After all, he is also an uncle in the club, and now he is locked in a cage like a dog. If word spreads, how will he behave in the future? And look at Chen Hailung like that, son. Put him in a cage and drag him to the top of the mountain. There must be other ways to torture him, so he can't help but be timid. "You can eat indiscriminately, but you can't talk indiscriminately," Chen Hailung sneered. "Who told you that I was going to lynch you? I was building a protective device for you so that when I take you to play later, I won't touch your old arms and legs again." Hearing this, Long Jen was even more frightened. But no matter how much he yelled, Chen Hailung ignored him and just arranged what his younger brother was doing. The wooden cage containing Long Jen and Guan Zixin was about 1 meter long. It was so square that it was impossible for a person to have any comfortable position when being stuffed inside. He couldn't even straighten his waist, so he could only curl up into a ball and nest in it. In their horrified eyes, they saw Chen Hailung's men doing 2 extra-large kites came out. The diameter of the kites was 5 or 6 meters wide. When a gust of wind blew, it would take 4 or 5 boys to pull it. This made Long Jen and his wife even more uneasy. "Chen Hailung, what on earth are you going to do? Haven't seen it yet?" Chen Hailung stared at Long Jen's eyes, his eyes full of teasing. "Since you like to let me go so much, I will let you go today and let you go to the sky to see the beautiful scenery of Hong Kong Island. Most people don't have this kind of experience. You see if I treat you well or not." As soon as these words came out, Long Jen almost pissed himself with fear. At his age, let alone being carried up to the sky by a big kite without any protective measures, even a fall would kill him. If he was really sent to heaven, there is no guarantee whether he can survive. At this moment, he is really scared. If he had known that voting blindly would bring such consequences, he would not have dared to vote for Ale even if he was killed. In the face of life and death in times of crisis, he could not be reserved at all, so he hurriedly begged Chen Hailung for mercy. Aaron, you really can't blame me for the election. I didn't vote for you, but there's a reason for that. Oh, tell me what the reason is, Chen Hailung said. Yes. When Long Zhen replied, his mind started to spin. An hour ago, when he saw Guan Zizhen, who was also kidnapped, he had already figured out that it was Guan Zizhen who was the one who got in the way and blackmailed him for 500,000 yuan, not Chen Hailung Xiao who gave him the money. But using this excuse at this time, it was obviously impossible to excuse him, because even if the younger brother was greedy, he still received 500,000 yuan, and it was not that he did not receive the money. There is no excuse for not doing anything after receiving money, but stabbing someone in the back. What, can't you tell me? Chen Hailung teased. No, Long Genfu said in his heart. It's what Uncle Deng meant. Yes, it's the rhythm that Uncle Deng brought. You know, although Uncle Deng and I are both uncles, our right to speak is far inferior to that of Uncle Deng. Uncle Deng said that you can't just choose whoever gives you more money. He was just trying to beat me up. I had no choice but to follow the investment. I promised to repay you double the money you gave me. This matter really cannot be blamed on me. At this moment, Long Zhen was also in a hurry and sought medical treatment. He started biting randomly, even dragging Uncle Deng into the water. But Chen Hailung had no intention of taking that trouble at all. As usual, it didn't matter to him whether he should sit down or not, but playing tricks on him didn't matter. What's more, there are tasks issued by the system. Even if Long Zhen can come up with something today, he won't be able to let it go. Are you finished? Long Zhen, who was interrupted, was a little stunned. Having said that, it's time to send you to the sky. The wind is just right now. If it were later and there wasn't such a strong wind, it wouldn't be nice to fly. Aaron, you can't be like this. You really can't blame me for this matter. Amid the shouting, Long Zhen and Guan Zizhen's wooden cages were fixed on the big kite. But the weight of the wooden cage and the two of them meant that even if the kite was big enough and the wind was strong enough, it would be difficult to fly it for a while. However, this small problem is not difficult for Chen Hailung at all. He asked the plane to wait for his younger brother, and moved the two-person wooden cage to the edge of the cliff at the top of the mountain, preparing to release it at this location. When Long Zhen saw the steep cliff outside the cage, he was so scared that he peed. As for Guan Zizhen in the other cage, he was even more unbearable. Not only was he scared to the point of urinating, but his whole body was shaking like chaff. Chen Hailung didn't give them much time to panic. He just stretched out his foot and kicked, and the wooden cage fell towards the cliff. The downforce caused by the free fall gave the big kite a place to use. The two wooden cages fell precariously to the bottom of the cliff like parachutes. Well, I didn't expect it to be quite interesting. Lift it up and do it again. In this way, the wooden cage containing the two people was constantly lifted up and kicked down, and it was repeated several times. Although the kite has a buffering effect to a certain extent, the toy is not a parachute after all, and there are rugged rocks under the cliff. Within a few times, the two of them had been injured all over their bodies and had multiple fractures. But Chen Hailung didn't stop carrying it back and forth until the wooden cage was thrown to pieces. At this time, Long Zhen and Guan Zizhen were already full. His body was riddled with scars, especially Long General. Not only were his legs broken, but even his waist was broken by a stone. Even if he was sent to the hospital, he might not be able to stand up again, let alone his beloved London. Don't even think about it. Aaron, I was wrong, please let me go, spare my life. Long Zhen, whose face was stained with blood, begged for mercy in a gossamer voice. If I had known today, why bother then? Chen Hailung squatted in front of Long Zhen and said, Don't worry, I told you that I'm just here to play with you today, and I won't kill you. My little brother will take you to the hospital later. Airplane! Chen Hailung called for a plane and said, Send them both to the nearest hospital from here. In fact, Chen Hailung had already received the task completion prompt when he kicked Long Zhen off the cliff for the first time. But at that time, Long Zhen's injuries were not serious, so he decided to make the other person faint when he saw him, so he did the following attacks. If it weren't for the fact that Long Jen was an uncle in the club and he couldn't kill him directly, I'm afraid Long Jen wouldn't have been able to leave alive today. The world is like this. Your soft-heartedness today may be a disaster for the future, so even if it's not easy to kill, you have to make the other party no longer able to fight against you. After returning to the hall, Chen Heilung received the system task reward alone in the office. The Black Bear King rewarded this time has the same manifestation process as the Black Wolf and Black Tiger, except that the Black Bear King is even more exaggerated than the Black Tiger King. The Black Tiger King has a muscular body full of aggression, while the Black Bear King has a stocky and honest appearance. At first glance, he is just a fat man over 2 meters tall, but he is full of strength under the thick fat. Not to mention anything else, just the fat layer alone can't even be broken through by ordinary people, let alone that its power is much higher than that of the Black Tiger King. Owner! The Black Bear King knelt down on one knee and greeted. Don't use this title in the future, just call me boss, or Brother Heilung, Chen Heilung said. Yes, boss. Chen Heilung looked at the Black Bear King's hill-like figure and nodded with satisfaction. When he summoned the Black Bear King, the fact that the dragon root was repeatedly thrown down the mountain by him also spread in the world. This time, he was worried about the club. Big D, who was dissatisfied with the election, immediately called Chen Heilung after hearing about this. Black Dragon, I'm Big D. Do you have time today? Let's meet and chat. Although Chen Heilung didn't know what Big D was calling him to talk about at this time, he didn't waste any more nonsense and asked directly. What time and where? 7 p.m., Sunwan Demi Western Restaurant. Good. That night, Chen Heilung took dozens of younger brothers and the newly summoned Black Bear King to Tsuanwan. The convoy of 7 or 8 cars was very impressive. After arriving at the Demi Western Restaurant, those tall and powerful younger brothers went to that station. The aura revealed caused passers-by to take a detour. When Big D, who booked the entire restaurant, went out to greet him, he was stunned by the terrifying physique of the Black Bear King at the first sight. God of Wealth Dragon, who is this brother? Black Bear King, I just took him as his subordinate, Chen Heilung replied casually. These words made Big D so envious that he didn't know what to say. Now who doesn't know that Chen Heilung has strong soldiers and horses, the Black Tiger King and the Black Wolf King, who have already made a great name in the Southeastern Sea area. Now there is another Black Bear King, and you can tell at a glance that this one is not inferior to those two. Although he has more subordinates than Chen Heilung, none of them can be as arrogant as Chen Heilung's subordinates. You really have more and more talents on your hands, Big D said enviously. Well enough. The two of them walked into the restaurant while chatting. Demi Western Restaurant is considered the best Western restaurant in Sunwan. The dishes are mainly French. The food is exquisitely prepared and has an excellent taste. Perhaps it's because Westerners always like to create gimmicks that show off their style. There are as many as 18 types of tableware with different functions in front of everyone. The meal also consists of 13 courses in sequence from aperitif to appetizer, side dish, main dish, cheese, dessert, coffee, and after-dinner wine. During the meal, only the protagonists Chen Heilung and Big D chatted and ate. The others either accompanied them or stood guard around them. Even Mrs. D, who was qualified to serve, laughed along the whole time and rarely used the knife. Cross. You called me here today, what's the matter? Chen Heilung asked. I've heard about the association election and what happened at Long Jen, and I also know what happened in the hall meeting. Big D sat upright and said, Your loss seems to be caused by Long Jen's betrayal, but in fact it's because Uncle Deng doesn't want us to take the position. I'm not afraid to tell you, before this time, I had already thought twice about choosing a restaurant. But those old guys keep saying that I am not qualified enough and need to wait for another 2 years. The situation you are encountering now is exactly the same as mine. Even if Long Jen doesn't rebel, those neutral factions will follow Dumbledore, and you still won't be able to choose. To put it bluntly, a bumpkin like A-Look can't even compare to me. How can he compare with you? Do you think he was selected based on his own ability? He was selected because he is not as good as the two of us. Those old guys know how to balance all day long. If they like balance so much, why should they start a club? Why not turn the club into a welfare club, where everyone can sit in a row and share the benefits? Choosing the worst one to sit in the hall, no club in Hong Kong does this. I don't know what you think, but I've had enough. After hearing Big D's words, Chen Heilung narrowed his eyes slightly, shook the red wine glass in his hand, looked at the swaying red wine in the glass and said, "Tell me what you mean by these things. If you have anything to say, just say it directly. There is no need to beat around the bush with me." Sister-in-law D obviously knew what Big D wanted to do. When she heard this, there was a hint of nervousness in her eyes. But Big D only hesitated for a moment and then said, "I think since the club can't accommodate us, we should come out and create a new alliance. What do you think? Xinhe Lianxing?" Chen Heilung moved his eyes to Big D's face. "That's right." Big D nodded heavily and started talking completely. "Have you heard about the fact that Lao Dong had a large share of the power in the hotel? He was a good person, but he suddenly suffered a stroke and died. Fortunately, there are 2 talkers in their club, otherwise the world would be in chaos. I have already thought about it. We can use the double-seating system for the newly created Xinhe Lianxing. Now many societies outside are doing this, and some even have 4. Let's do it together. To put it bluntly, even if something happens to one of us, the other one will be there to support us. If you are willing, there is no need to differentiate between the 2 of us. We are all the same size. If we work together, we will have more manpower and more business. What do you think?" "You have a great idea." Chen Heilung smiled lightly and said, "But I'm used to talking to each other, and I don't really like to be the boss with others." As soon as these words came out, Big D's face changed color instantly. But before he could say anything, Chen Heilung continued, "However, I think your idea of setting up a new society is good. Since those old guys can't tolerate us, we will be independent and start our own. You make your Xinhe Lianxing, and I will also make a Black Dragon Club. Let's Sanfen Lianxia." When Big D heard this, his expression immediately changed from cloudy to clear. If possible, he did not want to give his power to others. The reason why he dragged Chen Heilung to work on Xinhe Lianxing was to let Chen Heilung help share the pressure. Now Chen Heilung has to do it himself, which is exactly what he wants. Since there are people to help share the pressure, there is no need to give away some power, so why not? Why didn't I think that your method is good? Since those old guys don't want us to take the lead, we will all go it alone, 3-pointers and win-win games to let those old guys know how good we are. After reaching a united front, this meal can be said to be a feast for both the guest and the host. The 2 chatted for a while, and then Chen Heilung stood up and left. After seeing Chen Heilung off, Big D asked his subordinate Ma Changmao to sit down and eat together. Even though Big D is very domineering, he really has nothing to say to his subordinates. He treats them all as his own brother, and Changmao is also loyal to him. "Changmao, please let the news out later. Let's just say that I, Big D, am dissatisfied with the fact that Elena, a countryman, is sitting on the bench, and I plan to come out on my own to create a new Lianxing, and be the leader." "Yes, boss." On the other side, Chen Heilung returned to the hall and asked Zhang Mitzi to come to his office. "Big D is preparing to create a new alliance to fight against Dumbledore." Chen Heilung, standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looked at the busy figures of the workers in the warehouse and said, "I'm also going to set up a Black Dragon Club to respond and win 3 points and win the league together. You can let the news out later and let those old guys know that I, Chen Heilung, am not a fool." Although Chen Heilung doesn't care whether he takes that position or not, it doesn't mean that he doesn't mind those old guys using this method to forcefully intervene. If you want to suppress him so much, then don't do it. It's not his loss anyway. "Yes, boss." The news about Big D and Chen Heilung was released at almost the same time. As soon as the news came out, it immediately caused an uproar in the underground society of Hong Kong Island. Everyone thought that this long-lasting and Lianxing election campaign had already followed. When the dust of Li's election was settled, I didn't expect that it would lead to such an outburst. For a time, there were supporters, opponents, and spectators. But no matter which one, it is clear that he and Lianxing really, if it is divided into three, I am afraid that it will fall directly from the super first-rate club in Hong Kong to the second or third-rate club. Because the combined strength of Big D and Chen Hailung accounts for at least two-thirds of He Lianxing. Especially it is Chen Hailung. He was originally the richest among He Lianxing, and now he has the most powerful soldiers. Chen Hailung alone has already occupied a lot of strength in He Lianxing. If we really split up with Lianxing, it would give many other societies the opportunity to take advantage of the situation. For a time, all the eyes of the underground societies in Hong Kong were focused on this matter. When the news about Big D and Chen Hailung's new club came out, Alo was watching his son play the piano at home and had no idea what was going on outside. It can be said that he is in a very good mood today. He no longer has to worry about Big D and Chen Hailung weighing him down. Now he is just waiting for his uncles to announce the results to the public, so that he can sit in the seat he has always dreamed of. Bang, bang, bang! A sudden knock on the door interrupted my son's music. Ignore him, just keep playing, and I'll go take a look. After comforting his son, Alo walked to the door and opened the door. As soon as he opened the door, he saw the two Ma De Tu looking anxiously and wanting to say something. Shh! Alo put his index finger on his lips and shushed, then pointed at his son who was playing the piano in the living room, indicating that if he had anything to say, he would wait until his son finished playing the piano. Even though De Tu was extremely anxious at the moment, he could only be honest. I really waited patiently. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Ali's son finally finished playing. Yes, your playing this time has improved a lot compared to last time. Go back to your room and play games for a while. I'll have a few words with your uncle. Okay, Dad! After seeing his son enter the room and close the door, Ali turned around and asked De Tu, What happened? I was so panicked. The boss, Chen Hailung and Big D released the news, saying that they were dissatisfied with the voting results of their uncles and were preparing to form a new society of their own to split He Lianxing into three. Hearing this, Alo was shocked. You go down and prepare the car. I'll tell my son, let's go see Uncle Deng. Yes, boss. After De Tu left, Alo opened the door to his son's room and said hello to his son, then put on his coat and went downstairs to Uncle Deng's place. When he arrived at Uncle Deng's tea house, as soon as he went upstairs, he saw Uncle Deng sitting in his usual seat. The old god was making tea on the ground. Uncle Deng's calmness made Ale feel a lot more at ease. Sit, Uncle Deng said without raising his head. After Ale sat down, he took the initiative to pick up the teapot and poured 2 cups of tea. But before he could speak, Uncle Deng said, I know what you are here for. There is a rumor outside. I've heard about it too, but you don't have to worry, the rules are the rules, no matter who comes. If we make trouble if we are not convinced, then what credibility will the words of us old guys have? This seat was voted for by us, and no one can take it away from you. You should notify us now and ask all the hall masters and uncles to come and hold a hall meeting. Hearing this, Aluf felt even more relieved, but he still asked, Are Big D and Kai Shenlong notified as well? Why don't you inform them that they are still the ones with Lianxing? Got it, I'll make arrangements right away. With Uncle Deng's unswerving support, Ali's worries were reduced a lot. He immediately called all the uncles and hall masters to come to the main hall to hold a meeting. Those uncles and hall masters heard the big news. After D spread the news to Chen Hailung, he knew that something like this would happen. He made preparations early and rushed to the main hall as soon as he received the call. On Chen Hailung's side, it was Jimmy Zai who received the phone call. As soon as he received the call, he reported the news to Chen Hailung. Boss, Uncle Deng is holding a meeting, can we go? Go, why not go? I also want to see what those old guys are going to say. Chen Hailung's mouth showed a playful smile. Let the Black Tiger King and the Black Bear King bring 200 of their younger brothers and go with me to see what tricks they can come up with. Yes, boss! On the other side, Big D, who also received the notice, immediately called Chen Heilung. When he heard that Chen Heilung was going to attend, he immediately informed Chao Mao. Call 300 young men and bring them along with me to attend a church meeting. If those old bastards are going to do something, then just fight them. Clear! Big D was relatively close to the main hall. When he arrived with his younger brother, he saw that Chen Heilung hadn't arrived yet, so he didn't rush in. He waited until Chen Heilung's motorcade arrived, then got off the car and entered the main hall with Chen Heilung. The total of more than 500 younger brothers on both sides of them stood guard at the entrance of the main hall, ready at any time. At this meeting, except for Long He and Guan Zixin who were still in the hospital, only the current one who was sitting in the hall was not there, and the other uncle seniors, including Quan, the big boss who has been doing business in the northern continent, all came back. Now that everyone is basically here, the rest won't wait, let's get started, Dumbledore said. I think you all know the reason for calling everyone here this time, so I won't talk nonsense. Having said this, he looked at Big D and said, Big D, I want to hear what you say with my own ears. I'm afraid that there are rumors out there that are spreading the wrong things. Are you going to create a new alliance? Come out. Uncle Deng, why did we come out to elect? We only want to do something for the society, and it's not just for the good of the society, Big D said. I give money to those who give money, and I work hard to those who contribute. What about the result? Do you think the current result is fair? Let me ask you, did you say you wanted to create a new Heiliansheng? Uncle Deng ignored him and continued to ask. Why did that idiot Elena get elected? You are blind. Are you going to follow me if you are wrong? Let me ask you, did you say you wanted to create a new Heiliansheng? Dummer continued to press. I would like to say hello to everyone, but everyone has other ideas. That would be boring. Why don't we separate and do our own thing? Oh well. Deng Bo nodded and said, then we can fight. From now on, we will not do anything with Lianxing. I will just stare at you and beat you until you are beaten to death. As soon as these words came out, before Big D could speak, he heard Chen Heilung speak. Staring at him and beating him, Uncle Deng, do you think so little of my Black Dragon Club? Do you want to beat me too? When Uncle Deng heard this voice, he suddenly felt a big headache. The reason why he chose to attack Big D alone without mentioning Chen Heilung was because he knew Big D's temper and temperament. Don't look at how Big D was whining all day long. But in fact, he is a bit strong on the outside but weak on the inside. As long as he puts a little pressure on him, there are many ways to make him relent. But Chen Heilung is different. He has always been a little unclear about Chen Heilung. Originally, in his opinion, Chen Heilung, who only focused on making money, was against sitting in the office. He was a little surprised that the one in the position he was least interested in ran out to run for office. It was even more confusing that he could spend so much money just to run for the election. It sounds nice to just sit in the office, but in fact it can only improve things. Apart from his status in the world, the actual benefits are not as great as imagined. Chen Heilung's campaigning at such a high cost is completely unworthy of the loss. It is precisely for this reason that he cannot see through Chen Heilung's thoughts. I would intervene in the election and wanted to further observe what Chen Heilung was thinking. As a result, this happened unexpectedly. And Chen Heilung is not as easy to handle as Big D. Chen Heilung wants money and people. If they really break up and fight Lianxing and dare to stare at each other, it doesn't matter who will be beaten down in the end. It's useful to threaten Big D with this. But if you threaten Chen Heilung, maybe that guy can turn the table over on the spot. It was revealed. He originally wanted to scare Big D with threats, and then use the gentle method to deal with Chen Heilung after defeating Big D. Unexpectedly, Chen Heilung would not give him a chance to show off, and directly forced him into a dead end. Let him threaten him now. Neither threatening nor. Aaron, if you have any dissatisfaction with the club, you can raise it. There is no need to use such extreme means. Yeah. Chen Heilung smiled slightly and said, This is what you said. I think the results of the election are unfair. If you continue to play your way of balancing, then I will let you play to the end. Just divide Heiliansheng into 3, so that no one interferes with anyone else. Wouldn't it be more balanced? That's right. Big D immediately responded. I feel the same way. Either there will be another election, or everyone will break up and each will do his own thing. If you want to fight, I will accompany you. With the support of Chen Heilung, Big D is also brave and no longer afraid of Uncle Deng's threats. Uncle Deng, who was forced into a back alley, felt very tired and didn't know how to deal with it. I think that if this is the case, then we can renegotiate the candidate for the seat. Quan Mao suddenly interjected. Although Chuan Bao and Dumbledore are not on good terms, this matter is related to the entire society after all, and Chuan Bao cannot just sit idly by and take the initiative to help Dumbledore. Dumbledore said with some gratitude. He glanced at Quan Bao and said, In this case, the previous voting results will be invalid. You can compete in other ways. In what way? Chen Heilung asked. The club's token, the faucet stick, is in the hand of the cock player. Uncle Deng glanced around at Alo, Big D and Chen Heilung, and continued. I don't know where he and the stick are now. Whoever can get the leading stick will be next. Sitting in the venue of Jia Lianxing. Originally, Chen Heilung didn't intend to buy this account. Now that he has said it all and started a yarn together, he can start a new club by himself to avoid so many troubles. But before he could speak, he heard system task prompts coming from his mind. System task release. Become a member of Heiliansheng. Mission completion reward. Get 15 Black Bear servants and 20 Black Wolf servants. When he saw a mission coming, he would naturally not refuse it. Uncle Deng, who had expressed his thoughts, saw that Chen Heilung didn't respond for a long time, so he asked aloud. Aaron, if you have any other ideas, you can put them forward. Chen Heilung, who had come back to his senses, looked at Uncle Deng and smiled. No, I think your suggestion is very good, so let's do it. Hearing that Chen Heilung agreed, Uncle Deng was secretly relieved. The most difficult one among the 3 was Chen Heilung. As long as Chen Heilung agreed, Big D had to agree whether he wanted to or not. As for Alu, even more so maybe they objected to his opinion. Big D's side was just as he expected. After hearing Chen Heilung's agreement, he immediately nodded and said, Then let's do it this way. Everyone depends on their ability, and it must be relatively fair. Alu, what about you? I have no opinion, it's all up to you. Alu kept his posture very low. To be honest, he must be unhappy. He has obviously been voted out, and now he is doing this again. But who makes him the weakest among the 3? With too much say, we can only let it go. After seeing that all 3 people agreed, Dumble continued. Since you have all reached an agreement this time, then you will have no regrets. If after this election, whoever goes back on his promise will, but don't blame me for being unkind. When the time comes, even if we lose Heiliansheng, we still have to bring order to the chaos. I don't want to see you. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Chen Heilung stood up and said. As soon as he left, Big D immediately stood up and left. Not long after, the other uncles and the hall master also left in 2s and 3s. When Alu was about to stand up and leave, Uncle Deng said, Alu, please stay. Next time, I have something to tell you. Okay, dumber. When everyone had left and he was the only 2 left, Uncle Deng made a pot of tea. Cui Ji is now in Yangqing, mainland China. After you return, immediately send a trustworthy subordinate to retrieve the stick. Be sure not to let the news leak out. Alu knew that Uncle Deng had a backup plan. Now that he heard this, he immediately felt at ease. Big D and Chen Heilung are indeed stronger than him, but now they can't even boast. I don't know what I'm going to argue with him about. For this kind of thing, a quick step will prevent others from chasing him. By the time they figure out that the brawler is in the mainland, they're afraid he'll have already taken back the faucet stick. Understood, Dumbledore, I will be careful. Remember, this is your last chance. If you can't seize it, there's nothing I can do to help you. Alun nodded and said, "Thank you, Uncle Deng." "Don't rush to thank me. I just don't like their methods of forcing a woman to have a baby." Uncle Deng poured 2 cups of tea and continued. "In the past, when information was not developed, not everyone could recognize you when you were in the restaurant. Even if they knew your name, they would not know your face. Not to mention outside clubs, even my cousins may not be able to recognize each of them. So you need a dragon-headed stick to prove your identity. In today's information age, the dragon-headed stick only represents the authority of the community. We used to fight each other, but how can we be so sneaky like now? In 1970, the year I became a resident, there was a ceremony, with gongs and drums, dragon and lion dances, dozens of tables were set up, and people from all the associations in Hong Kong were entertained. Even the 4 major detectives came to congratulate them. I remember that the person who gave me the faucet stick was called Cockroach Rome. Maybe that guy was too sloppy and the faucet stick was all eaten by insects. I had to find a master to exterminate the pests, and I had to use a stick to repair it. It took me a long time to finally save the stick. This faucet stick has a history of hundreds of years in us and Lianqing. If it is lost through the hands of dozens of people, the entire club will lose face. It's a dragon or a worm, you have to keep it these 2 years. Deng Bo pointed at Lin Huila and said, "Got it, Dumble," Lin Huila said with a smile. Uncle Deng told him this. In addition to asking him to take care of the faucet stick, he also reminded him not to act carelessly and lose the face of the society. "Okay, you should send people north to find the blowing chicken as soon as possible, and be careful not to leak the news." Although the symbolism of the dragon head stick now outweighs the actual meaning, it is also the face of them and Lianqing. In addition to Big D and Chen Heilung who are interested in that thing, the Hong Kong police are also very interested. This thing should be if it falls into the hands of Chen and Heilung. Even if Allah fails in the competition, the meat will rot in the pot, and there will be no loss to the society. But if it falls into the hands of Chow Lao, it will definitely be sent to the Chow Lao Museum on the top of the mountain as an exhibition. Although there are not many collections in the Peak Chow Lao Museum, most of which are retired historical equipment, there is a Triad exhibition hall, where the items on display are toys of historical significance that were seized from various societies. It turns out that there was a family that was also a member of the Hong Men branch of the Triads, and the police packed up and confiscated all the ceremonial robes and other items. Now those things are still on display in the Mountaintop Museum. As for the club that was humiliated to my grandma's house, it collapsed because of it. The younger brothers left one after another and were lost in the torrent of history within a few years. Therefore, since then, these clubs in Hong Kong with a little bit of heritage have put their own. The inherited items were hidden very deep, for fear that one day the police would accidentally take them to the Mountaintop Museum and use them as exhibits. It was also because of this that Chui Ji took the faucet stick to the north and hid it after he became a member of the museum. This time he did not come to attend the meeting, but received Uncle Deng's instructions and hid in Yangqing. On the way home, in order to paralyze Big D and Chen Heilung, Alus sent all his subordinates out, pretending to be looking for a cockroach. But he himself, on the way back home, he turned to the vegetable market and bought some food to cook for his son. After cooking, he asked Toma Data to come to the house for dinner. Data was outside helping him find the whereabouts of the chicken, although he didn't understand why the boss was here. Sometimes I asked myself to go home for dinner, but I didn't ask any questions. The meal was an ordinary process. After the meal, Aile's son went back to his room to study. Data helped clear the table, clean and so on. Big head. Aile, who was washing the dishes, said, "Boss, what's going on? Tomorrow morning you go north to Yangqing. The chicken is there. Go and get the faucet stick for me." Datu didn't expect that his boss already knew the whereabouts of Chuji without saying a word. He was a little stunned, but he soon realized it. "Boss, the port is not closed yet. It should be too late to go there now. I will leave now." "Need not," Alu said calmly. "There are so many pairs of eyes outside looking at me now. If you go north at this time, everyone will know that Chuji is in the north. What should you do tonight?" Just pretend that you have been busy all night. In this way, even if you don't see anyone during the day, others will only think that you are resting and will not suspect others. Remember, you have to be careful about this, and you must not let anyone else know about it, especially the God of Wealth dragon. Do you understand? Like Deng Bo, Ayla doesn't care much about Big D, but he is particularly afraid of Chen Hailung. As long as he can guard against Chen Hailung, the seat will most likely fall into his hands. Understood, boss, don't worry, I will pay attention. Although it cannot be said that Ayla attaches great importance to Chen Hailung, he has ignored a very important point, that is money. Chen Hailung is particularly generous with money. Even if a diehard like Tu Ma is not easy to win over, Tu Ma the people around him may not be so loyal, especially for something as small as passing on a piece of information. Even if Data didn't tell anyone that he would go north, the younger brother around him was not a fool. When he saw him, he told him to go home, but instead left the car with him. There was something smelly when I drove north, so I immediately secretly called John Mitzi, the person in charge of this matter. Boss, Ali's leader, Datu, secretly went north alone this morning. Based on the situation we investigated, there is a high probability that he is hiding in the north. Snort. Chen Hailung snorted coldly and said, I knew that old bastard Deng Deng must have a backup plan to play this trick with me. If the blowjob is hiding somewhere else, maybe it will be more difficult for me to handle. If you hide in the mainland, wouldn't it be a waste of money? John Mazai, please contact Director Su and ask him to help get the cock and the faucet stick. Chen Hailung has been in the smuggling business in the mainland for so long, so the relationship should not be too strong. Even Dao Bahei, an owner who smuggles frozen goods in the north every day, knows his power in the mainland. This can be seen from Director Su. He is just one of Chen Hailung's partners in mainland China. He may not be the strongest in terms of strength, but his connections are definitely the broadest and toughest. Not to mention someone who is somewhat famous like playing chicken, even the humble younger brother next to Alu. I can find it for you in minutes when you go to the mainland. It cannot be said that Dumbledore's preparation of this backup is useless, but the use seems to be tailor-made for him. Even if the leader of the Ale School takes the lead, there will be no eggs. Yes, as long as you don't return with the stick before he calls, you will only lose. Yes, boss, I will contact Director Su right away. John Nazai nodded. At about the same time that Chen Hailung received the news, Chan Mao was also rushing to Big D's house to report to Big D on the progress of the investigation. Before Chan Mao knocked on the door, Big D was watching a football game on the sofa with his wife in his arms. He has no other hobbies except watching football. As long as there is a major game, he will not miss it. Even when he is competing for the leading stick, he will not delay watching the game. Does this mean that he doesn't care about the position, but that he feels that with his strength, he can't compare with Chen Hailung, so this time, he has the intention to give up, but he doesn't want to make it easy for Thuli, so he participates. Including asking Chan Mao to look for it, it was done easily. It would be better if he found it, but it would be okay if he couldn't find it. Knock knock knock. Hearing the knock on the door, the Filipino maid went over to open the door. Because Chan Mao comes often, the Filipino maid recognized it and saved the step of sending messages back and forth. Boss. Big D turned his head and glanced at Chan Mao. You came here now to find out the whereabouts of the blowing chicken. We've found it. If nothing goes wrong, Chui Ji should be hiding in the north. Alu has already sent his boss there. Few people who can get ahead in the club are fools. Uncle Deng clearly favored Alu. No one would believe him if he didn't prepare a backup plan for Alu. Unlike Chen Hailung, who threw money at him, Chan Mao just keeping an eye on the movements of Ali's men. When the two went to Ali's house last night, Chan Mao was watching from downstairs. Although Datu tried his best to act like nothing was wrong, after he followed him out before going to Ali's house, I personally put less effort into searching for blowjobs. This made Chan Mao suspicious, and he stared at the big head, and then he saw the guy crossing the port. Is there any reaction from Caishenlong? No, they didn't seem to notice that Alu had sent Big Head to the north, and there was no response. Big D, who was careless before, immediately became energetic when he heard these words. He acted badly because he felt that he could not compete with Chen Heilung, but now that he has such a good opportunity, of course he cannot let it go. These 3 people participating in the election among people, he is the most disciplined one. As long as the process is fair enough, he will never say anything. Now that the opportunity has come to his door, of course he has to fight for it. You go contact De Quanzi now. No matter where Data goes, he has to come back. There are only a few roads back to Hong Kong Island. Block him. Clear. At the same time, Data also led the boy from the north to the place where Chuiji hid the sticks. But when he arrived, there was only an empty room, and the room was turned into a mess. Chuiji and his leader Ma Xianzi were not in the room. Inside. Are you sure this is here? Datu Chong asked the boy who was leading the way. That's right, I helped find this place. There aren't many neighbors around and it's relatively secluded. The younger brother pointed to the convenience food and water piled in the corner and said, Look, I brought these food and drinks. What the hell, where did they go? Did they grow wings and fly? I don't know if it's gone either. The younger brother said in confusion. After searching for a long time, there was no result, so he could only ask the younger brother to expand the search scope, and he returned to the car to call Ale. Boss, I'm here, but the cock-playing guy and his 4-eyed guy are gone. Missing. Chen Heilung went up with Big D's people? Ale said in surprise. No, if their people come up, the guys here will definitely get wind of it, but I haven't heard anyone say that they have come up. Then keep looking. Maybe they think it's not safe enough and hide somewhere else. No matter what, you have to find them and bring me the stick. Clear. The big head nodded and responded. Unlike those 2 families, Chen Heilung was much calmer. He even ate hot pot at a hot pot restaurant with great interest that night. As usual, he didn't like to be disturbed. He usually reserved the table for meals. Apart from his table of diners, the entire hot pot restaurant was only guarded by servants standing at the entrances of each passage. The coldness exuded by these burly and stern-faced servants, even if he did not reserve the table, would only be guarded by servants. I'm afraid no other customers would dare to come in. While we were enjoying our meal, John Mitzi opened the door and walked in. Boss. Well, have you eaten? If not, sit down and eat something. Chen Heilung greeted. When John Mitzi heard this, he did not sit down, but possessed himself in Chen Heilung's ear and whispered the report. Blowing Chicken and his 4-eyed guy have been caught, and are now at the Sai Kung Pier. New. Chen Heilung nodded. Don't worry, we'll talk about it after dinner. Come, sit down and try it. This restaurant's handmade beef balls are very good. It was more than an hour after I finished the hot pot meal. Chen Heilung then took Jimmy Zai and other younger brothers to set off for Sai Kung Pier. After arriving at the pier, Jimmy took out a strong flashlight and flashed it several times in the direction of the sea. Several lights flashed back on the dark sea surface. After the 2 sides exchanged signals and determined the code, a fishing boat emerged from the darkness. Not long after, they came to the offshore area. Chen Heilung and the others boarded the fishing boat along the simple pier. As soon as they entered the cabin, they saw Blowing Chicken and 4-eyed boy who had been stripped naked. Not only were the 2 men naked, their hands and feet were tied tightly, and rags were stuffed in their mouths. It was already cold at night on the sea, and they were in this state, already so cold that they were shivering all over. Seeing Chen Heilung coming, the 2 of them twisted their bodies hard and whined, trying to talk to Chen Heilung. But Chen Heilung ignored them and asked the person who sent them there. Where is the thing I want? It's here. The other party took out a very delicate wooden box and handed it to him. He took the box and opened the top cover, and the faucet stick placed inside was immediately revealed. The faucet stick is only about 1 foot in length, thick at the top and thin at the bottom. At first glance, it looks like a demon-conquering pestle. The material of the stick is ebony, and a lifelike dragon is carved on it. The dragon head is at the top of the stick, and the dragon tail is at the end. The carving process is clearly made by a master, and it is so ferocious. Looks like he might come from it's like jumping down from the top. This game must have been played with Lianxing for dozens of generations. The stick body has already been covered with a thick layer of patina, especially the faucet part, which looks like it is made of porcelain. Even apart from its inherent attributes, this toy can be regarded as a rare and exquisite work of art. Woo woo woo. The violent struggle on the ground interrupted Chen Heilung's appreciation. Pull the rag off his mouth and see what he wants to say. When Zhang Mitzi heard the words, he stepped forward, squatted down, and pulled the rag out of the blowing chicken's mouth. The blowing chicken had been held in his mouth for almost a day. After he relaxed, he couldn't say anything for a long time. Not in a hurry. Chen Heilung looked at the faucet stick in his hand and said casually, "You have opened your mouth for so long. It will take time to recover. It's not too late to let it relax for a while before you speak." When Chuiji heard this, he moved his mouth and finally he could make a normal sound. "God of Wealth Dragon, if you want a stick, just take it. Why are you tying me up with my men? Now that you have the stick, you can let us go. Do you think it's possible to let you go?" Chen Heilung glanced at him and sneered. "What do you mean? I am still a member of the club. If you dare to do anything to me, it will be against the rules of the club. You still have the nerve to talk about gang rules." Chen Heilung said disdainfully, "When manipulating the election, I didn't see you talking about the rules. When I hid the dragon head stick, I didn't see you talking about the gang rules. When I'm playing tricks behind my back, I don't see you talking about gang rules. Now tell me the gang rules, what do you think I am? Today, I will let you know what my rules are." After saying that, he waved his hand towards Zhang Mizai. "Kill these two guys and feed them to the fish." "You dare!" Chuiji exclaimed. But his shouting was ignored by no one on this ship. Zhang Mizai took out his gun without hesitation and pointed it at the two heads. Boom! Boom! After 2 shots, Cui Ji and his leader Four Eyes fell into the sea with unwillingness on their faces. Which one? Quan Bao, who had just fallen asleep, was woken up by the ringing of the phone, and his tone was a little impatient. "It's me, I've got the faucet stick." The sound coming from the receiver made me wake up instantly. "Aaron?" Chen Heilung on the other end of the phone said. "I need you to hold a meeting tomorrow morning to confirm the candidates for the seat." "No problem," Chuan Bao said excitedly. "But only Uncle Deng is qualified to hold the meeting alone. I'm afraid if I'm the only one." "You don't have to worry about this. I'll have someone notify Long Zhen and ask him to convene it with you." "That's no problem, I'll call you now." "No, I will notify you tomorrow morning. I don't want anyone to play any more tricks." Although Chen Heilung didn't name him, it was almost as good as pointing at his name. After hanging up the phone, he was so excited that he was no longer sleepy. Although Chen Heilung is not in a high position, it will not affect what he has already obtained. 1 million, but when he first met, he stood clearly on the opposite side of the other two. If either of those two came to power, he would probably have to put his tail between his legs in the next 2 years. But when Chen Heilung came to power, it's completely different. At the very least, this Zonglong Gong can greatly increase his voice among his uncles. On the other side, Chen Heilung, who hung up the phone, rushed to Mizai and said, "Go to Long Zhen and tell he asked him to jointly conspire to convene a church meeting tomorrow morning." "Yes, boss." At this time, Long Zhen was still recuperating in the hospital. Although he was lucky enough to survive the kite trip that day, he had no feeling below the waist. He was afraid that he would never be able to leave the wheelchair in the future. If someone else had he made it so miserable. No matter what, he had to take revenge. Even if he couldn't get the real owner, he still had to kill all the other party's family members in order to relieve the hatred in his heart. But against Chen Heilung, he was really serious now. He can't afford the slightest thought of revenge. He is old and his courage was shattered when he flew the kite that day. "Boss, I was really wrong, please forgive me once." Guan Zizhen, who was covered in bandages, knelt down beside Long Zhen's bed and begged. Although he was kite with Long Zhen that day, He was much younger and his body was stronger than Long General in addition to a few broken bones. Except for one bone, there are no other big problems. Roll! Long Gen said angrily. If I hadn't thought about you and me for so many years, I would have had you buried long ago. Get out of Hong Kong Island immediately. It's best not to let me see you again in the future, otherwise I will definitely kill you. If you want to say who Long Gen hates the most right now, it must be Guan Zixin. If this guy hadn't been a hindrance, how could this situation have happened? If he hadn't still missed some of his old feelings, he would have had Guan Zixin do it. How can I tolerate him coming to beg for mercy? Boss! When Guan Zixin was about to say something, the ward door was suddenly pushed open. After the two turned their eyes to the door, their bodies shivered uncontrollably. John me, you, what are you going to do? I've become like this, and you still won't let me go, Long Gen said in panic. Don't be nervous, I'm not here to cause trouble for you today. My boss asked me to tell you that I will hold a church meeting with Quan Bao tomorrow morning. Hearing that he was not causing trouble, Long Gen immediately put his heart back in his stomach. No problem, I will call you tomorrow morning. Well, remember, don't forget. No, I will definitely not forget it. Because of the faucet stick incident, Alu didn't sleep much all night again. He was waiting for news from Detu, and his breakfast was just the same. Ring ring ring. Almost at the same time the phone rang, Alu picked it up. Hello? Boss! There was a big voice coming from the other end. Did you find the stick? No, Chuiji and Xianzai seem to have evaporated. I searched almost all over Yangqing, but I couldn't find any trace of those two. Then continue to expand the search scope and pay the local snakes over there to help find it. Alu said in an anxious tone. I don't care what method you use, you have to get the stick back for me. Clear. Data responded. Boss, I just received a call from Chuan Bao and Long Gen, asking me to inform you to go to the main hall to hold a meeting. Ali's eyes flashed with suspicion. Normally, you could just call him directly if this kind of thing happened, but now he actually asked Data to tell him. No matter how you look at it, you think there is something wrong. Could it be that he just had this idea? The boss on the other end of the phone said. Boss, do you think the faucet stick has been cut off? Hearing this, Ale's heart suddenly thumped. You can continue searching first and wait until I attend the church meeting. On the other side, Big D, who was shopping for clothes with his wife, also received a report that the head horse had hair. At this time of the meeting, it seems that the god of wealth dragon probably got the stick. A flash of self-mockery flashed across Big D's face. Originally, I thought I had a chance, but I didn't expect that they got it done quietly. I am truly worthy of the god of wealth dragon. His obsession with the election for Hall Master has faded a lot, so he sees it more clearly than Alu. If Alu gets the stick, the person who informed the hall meeting must be Uncle Deng, not Lu. It was obvious that Deng Bo had left a backdoor for Alu, but Chen Hailung got there first. This made him deeply frightened by Chen Hailung's efficiency. At the same time, he was extremely looking forward to seeing Deng Bo and Tubo Lu steal the law. A chicken can't eat up a handful of rice. Go to the main hall immediately. I want to see what Uncle Deng looks like now. Deng Bo, who was in the Lianqing main hall, looked as gloomy as the bottom of a pot. Although no one said why this church meeting was held, everyone knew that the matter should be settled. He never expected that Allah would be useless to such an extent. All he had to do was send someone over to get the stick back. He had almost finished all the arrangements, and he just had to give the stick to Allah. Just like this, it can actually turn over. But he set the rules, and now that all the hall masters and uncles are gathered together, he can no longer take sides. Chen Hailung, who was sitting at the bottom, was accompanied by Zhang Nazai, Black Tiger King and other elite young men. Normally, Lianqing Hall only allows people sitting in the hall and uncles to participate, and younger brothers are not eligible to enter at all. But Chen Hailung didn't care about that at all. Uncle Deng's repeated obstructions had made him tired. It would be fine if he followed the rules today, but if something happened again, he wouldn't mind letting Dumbledore see his methods. Everyone at the meeting also understood this point, so no one raised any questions about Chen Heilung bringing his younger brother into the venue. After all, Uncle Deng's favoritism was indeed a bit too much. The person who was in charge of hosting today's meeting saw that everyone was almost here and said, "Since everyone is here, let's get started. Aaron, have you already got the dragon head stick?" "That's right." Chen Heilung smiled and nodded, then raised his fingers at Zhang Mitzi next to him. "Jimmy, show the stick to Uncle Deng. Uncle Deng, take a look, is this the leading stick between us and Lianxing? This is my first time seeing you, so I don't know if it's true or not, and I need your help to keep an eye on it." These words were almost like mocking Uncle Deng. Big D, who was sitting next to him, was very happy to see it. He had long disliked the old guy, but due to his status, he couldn't do anything to the old guy. In this way, now that I have finally seen him deflated, I have to appreciate it. Uncle Deng, who was sitting in the upper seat, was very angry at the teasing words, but his expression did not change much, and he still had a livid face. "Look!" Zhang Mitzi placed the wooden box containing the faucet stick in front of Dumbledore, opened the lid of the box, and showed the faucet stick to him. At the same time, he also let other uncles have a clear look. With just one glance, Dumbledore immediately there was no doubt that he recognized it as an authentic product. Although he was very reluctant to admit it, he was not the only one who knew the dragon head stick. In front of so many club brothers, he couldn't identify a deer as a horse, so he could only pinch his nose and admit it. "That's right, he is indeed the leader of our club. In this case, please announce the affiliation of us and the Associated Press for this session," Chen Heilung said with a smile. Uncle Deng, who was focused by everyone, had a trace of anger in his eyes. He didn't know how many years he had been forced by others. He didn't expect that he would be forced to this point by a junior today. But no matter how reluctant he was in his heart, and how hostile he was towards Chen Heilung, he could not pretend to be dead and remain silent. "I announce that from today on, Chen Heilung will serve as the seat of Lianxing for a 2-year term. He will abdicate upon expiration and will not be eligible for re-election." After the results were announced, the next step was for the new speaker to speak. From this point of view, the club is actually not much different from the company. If the leader is changed, the people below will definitely have to be shaken. How was your business before and how it will be in the future? The top priority is to avoid continued turmoil with Lianxing. This election has brought a lot of negative impacts to our community. I hope that no more things will happen that will affect the association. Otherwise I will pursue responsibility. From now on, when everyone has money, we can make money together. I, the god of fortune, will never treat my brothers badly. Chen Heilung's speech was not too long, he just finished it in 2 short sentences. After he spoke, there was a burst of applause from below. Whether they supported him or not, they could only acquiesce to this fact at this moment. Among them, Ali's smile is the brightest. Even though he had already scolded Chen Heilung in his heart, and wanted to punch Chen Heilung in the face, he remained extremely humble in appearance, and did not show any sign of anger. "Congratulations, Aaron. Under your leadership we in Lianxing will definitely be able to create greater glory." A look congratulated with a face full of hypocrisy. "Thanks." Of course Chen Heilung knew that this guy didn't mean what he said, but he didn't take it seriously. Whoever believes it is a fool. "Congratulations." Big D stepped forward and said with an arrogant look on his face, "I will admit that I lost to you, Caishenlong, but the seat next time will definitely be mine. I want to see what other tricks some people can do by then." What he said was that although he didn't mention Al-Le or even look at Al-Le, the 3 of them all knew who he was talking about. However, Ali's ability to do what he said was beyond words. Even though he was ridiculed in person, the humble smile on his face did not change at all. This made Big D feel like he was punched in cotton, and he felt even more unhappy inside. "How about it? Will you come out to compete with me next time?" Big D looked at Ale and raised his chin. "Who can say clearly what will happen in the future?" Ale smiled and said, "You guys chat, I'll go see Uncle Deng." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards Uncle Deng. But at the moment he turned around, a trace of cruelty flashed in his eyes. In addition to these two, other uncles and hall masters also came forward to congratulate. Only old god Deng Bo Zai Zai was sitting there, drinking tea by himself, without even looking at him. Chen Hailung naturally didn't bother to pay attention to the old man. After accepting a round of congratulations, he took his younger brother to say goodbye and left. After he left, the others also left in groups of 2s and 3s. Not long after, only Uncle Deng was left alone in the entire main hall. But at this moment there was a thump 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 sound going up the stairs. Dummer! A look came back to Deng Bo and said respectfully, "Ah Lu, haven't you already left? Why are you back again?" Uncle Deng took the teacup and didn't even look at him. "Uncle Deng, I want to recognize you as my Lord Qi." Qie is the name for Godfather in the South, Guangdong, Hong Kong and Macau. People in the old days were superstitious and believed that people with deficiencies in the 5 elements must make up for it by eating chia or chinyang rice, so that they can grow up healthily and live a long life. Therefore, if there are children at home, people like to ask fortune tellers to tell whether there are any defects in metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. If there are any defects, find a qi yi or chinyang in time to make up for this shortcoming. Recognizing qi yi or chinyang is commonly known as entering into a deed. This status requires frequent movement throughout life. Compared with relationships, sometimes cheer is even closer than son-in-law, nephew, etc. Acknowledging cheer in the club is basically the same as becoming a disciple, and you will never know him forever. Betray. Do you accept me as Master Qi? Uncle Deng raised his eyelids and looked at Alu. You have thought it through. Think it through, Alu said without hesitation. I have been in the club for so many years, and no one has ever been as kind to me as you are. You are the only one who has always supported me unswervingly as a member of the club. Although the final result is not good, I can't forget the kindness you gave me. I would like to serve you and take care of you till the end of your life. As long as I am here, no one can disrespect you. Although Ayla didn't say it clearly, Deng Bo also knew what he meant. This time, because of Ali's matter, he has offended Chen Hailung to the end. No one can guarantee whether that guy will treat him in the future. How about it? Although these uncles have a lot of power in their hands, they are not very strong. After all, they are all people who have stepped down from their positions. In terms of manpower, they are definitely not as good as those of the Mesozoic generation who are young and powerful. People call them face. Call them uncles, and if you don't give them face, they will just be old men. But at the same time, he is also very clear about the other plans in Ali's heart. He and Lianxing sit in the stadium every 2 years. If he doesn't get selected this time, there will be another time, but Ali's strength is only average among the hall leaders. Except for Chen Hailung, Big D is also much stronger than him. It's not certain whether he can win against Big D next time, and no one can guarantee that next time will there be Sun Hailung, Wan Hailung and so on. Recognizing him as Lord Qi is just to pave the way for the next election in advance. But this does not prevent him from feeling a little moved in his heart, not to mention the importance of this matter to he is also benefiting without any harm. You know, even the uncles who have retired are still competitive. Otherwise, why would they help Chen Hailung so much? Isn't it to enhance his voice among the uncles? Since you say so, then I will accept you as my godson. Uncle Deng squeezed out a smile and said, But you have to understand that once you accept me as Master Qi, you will only be bound to my lineage from now on. Clear? Alu smiled and responded, From now on, I will be yours, Master Qi. If you asked me to go east, I will never go west. Okay, godson. Mr. Qi. The two foxes, each with their own ulterior motives, laughed out loud at each other. On the other side, Chen Hailung, who returned to the hall, returned to the office alone, and received the reward given by this mission. The reward for sitting in the hall there are 15 black bear servants, and 20 black wolf servants. There is nothing to say about the summoning process. It is still anthropomorphic after summoning as always. The Black Wolf servants are the same as the Black Wolf King. They all look useless and strong. But the muscles are full of explosive power, and they are the highest among the servants in terms of reaction and agility. On the contrary, the Black Bear servants are not as exaggerated as the Black Bear King, but they are still about 2 meters, especially those of the Black Bear's servants. His body shape is like a hill standing there. An ordinary dwarf mule looks like a little chicken standing in front of a Black Bear's servant. There is no comparison at all. "Jimmy Zai, come to my office!" Chen Heilung picked up the phone and played it to John Mazai. Not long after, John Mazai came to the door. "Knock, knock, knock! Come in!" The moment John Mitzi opened the door, his pupils shrank obviously. Although it was not the first time that he saw extra people in the boss's office, the dozen or so strong men who were like iron towers still made him unable to hold his breath. Paused slightly for a moment. "Boss!" Chen Heilung nodded, pointed to the Black Wolf servant and the Black Tiger servant, and said, "These are the new brothers who have come to join us. You take them to the Black Wolf King and the Black Bear King, and let them divide the little brothers." The Black Wolf King and the Black Bear King are both busy with things now and are not with Chen Heilung. And these newly summoned servants don't know the way to Hong Kong Island. It is definitely unrealistic for them to go there by themselves, so they need to be taken care of by Mi Zai. People take it. How should these young men divide the two of them? John Mitzi asked. You don't have to worry about this, they know how to divide it, you just need to take your little brother to them. Yes, boss. John Mazai thought that even if there was no dispute between the Black Wolf King and the Black Bear King, they would definitely split the boys half and half. But what he didn't expect was that after he took these boys to the factory where the Black Bear King was, the Black Bear King only he took in those tall and muscular younger brothers. The Black Wolf King at the dock took all the remaining relatively thin ones under his wing. During this period, the two of them did not have any disputes, as if they had discussed it in advance. The unknown reason for the possession Mi Zai, I just thought that these two new little brothers that the boss has recruited are from the same hometown, so they have such a tacit understanding,